Springfield Game Expo channel. This is the first week we're trying to go ahead and simulcast this on two channels again. Uh, this is going to be the normal home for the show now, but you can always still watch it simulcast on the Gamer Seuss channel, as well as it being hosted on Queen City Cardboard and Left Claw Studios whenever they don't have anything else congruently running at the same time. Um, See, now I'm going to go ahead and bring up my Twitch monitor here on my phone so that I can keep track of how many people are in channel and such. That's I think on my TV. Yeah, okay. As usual, then we're going to do a real quick sound check and we'll get going. This is, of course, I've got my Twitch monitor on my phone looking at the Gamer Seuss channel, so I'll kind of rely on Philip to monitor the other channel chat. That way we're keeping
I'm
an eye on both.
Yep, I'm watching the Game Expo channel chat at the moment. So.
Okay, and I'm going to do a little pop-up of my chat here, as usual. Bring the pop-up out. And, all right, and let's do a real quick sound check. We are live, so let's see. Check 1 2, check 1 2. 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 Yep, okay, sounds good. And I don't hear that clicking, so I don't know where that's coming from. All right.
Yeah, I don't know.
All right. Well, now welcome to the game time. For those of you who don't know, most of you who come in here generally do because you've been coming in for weeks now. We are a couple of the directors of Eclectic Endeavors, the people that put on the Gaming Arts Media Entertainment Expo, the Picnic at the End of the Universe, and Game Time at the Creamery Arts Center. We're a group underneath the Springfield Regional Art Council under their 501c3 nonprofit, dedicated to furthering the educational side of the various nerdy hobbies like Dungeons and Dragons, cosplay, prop design, video gaming, and so on. And we take anything we make over and above what it takes to actually put on our various events, we put back into the community with things like we've done scholarships to the nerdy arts in the past. Our newest venture we're getting ready to do once we start, doing events again live after most of the COVID has passed away, is we're going to be funding some after-school clubs and programs that feature the nerdy arts. So a Dungeons and Dragons club or a miniature painting club or an anime club. We might go in there and give them a grant of money to let them get certain base materials. Because a lot of times when you get these clubs, especially at the high school, middle school level, which is where we're going to have our primary focus, the faculty advisor brings a lot of the core materials. So when that faculty advisor leaves, the core materials leave with the faculty advisor, and then they're stuck with nothing. Even if they can get another faculty member to jump in, they might not have the core materials they need to keep the club going. And so what we want to do is give some grants. So like, for instance, a D&D club at say, I'm going to use a fictional school name, say Fillmore High School. It's actually from California, but say Fillmore High School had a D&D club. We could come in and buy them like a couple of sets of the core books and maybe some vinyl maps and some core miniatures and dice. And that way, when the faculty advisor leaves, these materials stay with the club, and so they can keep the club going on, and just to get another faculty advisor to join in to supervise the club, because that's generally required. And that's one of the ways we're going to help further these arts. The same thing if it was like an anime club. We might buy them 2 or 3 title sets or whatever. Little grants, not humongous grants, because we'd like to spread the money out to as many clubs as possible. But, it's still enough to buy, 5 or 6 anime titles maybe, or a base set of paints for some miniature painting, or things of that nature. And so that's what we're going to try to do to put back into our community, because we do believe that it's everybody's responsibility to put back into the community. And that's one of the things we do here. Anyway, let's get off of that subject. What we handle here on this show is myself, Lurch, and our absentee panelist, Greg, talk about anything and everything involving the nerdosphere, the big wild world of nerddom out there. I am the director of cross promotions for Eclectic Endeavors, so my main job is to go into other gaming conventions and libraries and game stores to promote our conventions and our other various activities. My co-host here today, Lurch, probably my most common co-host because me and him make almost every show. He is our chairman this year for Eclectic Endeavors, and he's also been a longtime director of electronic gaming for the convention. He is our guru when it comes to anything having to do with a console game. He's got just about every console known to man and cartridges coming out of his ears. And you should see his house. He's got several TVs hooked up with consoles. You could play everything, man. I swear, if there's an old school Pong game, he'd have it somewhere.
I do.
I knew it. I had no doubt.
Okay. It's funny you bring up Pong specifically, because, not only do I own, I have it for the Atari and the ColecoVision and stuff, but if I could, I might still have the files somewhere. But when I was a high school student, when I was 16 or 17, I actually made a working Pong game. It was one of my earlier programming things I did out of Java. I used Java from scratch and made a functioning Pong game.
Nice. I actually, when I was in high school, I made a chess game in Fortran.
Nice.
So I know.
I remember I was so proud. Like, I would take my laptop with me all over the place to show people my Pong game.
Yeah, unfortunately, mine was pre-laptops, really. But yeah. I took the military programming language Fortran, because back then the main two languages they taught at high school level were just BASIC and Fortran. And then you could, if you went and took some college courses, you could take COBOL and RPG. But that was about it. But I made a chess program. It was kind of modeled after the Sargon program, which is one of the tournament level chess programs. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. So if you want to know about video games, especially the newer stuff, Philip here, or Lurch, as he's also called, is the guy to go to ask. And then, of course, some of the older stuff from back when the dinosaurs roamed the earth, you got to talk to me. Me and my pet T-Rex would play, Pong next to each other on the couch.
Oh yeah.
But
oh yeah.
Anyway,
I do have a lot of older games. The ColecoVisions, the television, Atari, 2600, the Sears Video Arcade, Nintendos, things like that. But I got them. Except for NES, I got NES. I got the NES in like 90, 91. But everything else, I got way after they weren't popular anymore.
Right.
And so I kind of got them. I got them as a collector. That's like going back and picking up old games. So I don't have young childhood memories of playing.
Pitfall
most
Harry
of those. It was more when I got to my teens, when I started being able to use money from the donut shop job or the dishwashing job or whatever to buy myself an Atari and Pitfall. Although I did play. Did you know there was a Pitfall game on PlayStation 1 called Pitfall 3D Beyond the Jungle?
Yes.
That was my first time playing a Pitfall game, was that version of it.
Mine
was Bruce Campbell the voice? I feel like Bruce Campbell was the voice.
I don't remember. I don't remember who did the voices back then. We didn't
Yeah.
pay as much attention to who the voice
Right.
actors were.
Right. But
But I played on the 2600 Atari system. Was my first Pitfall game.
yeah.
Anyway, and then our absentee moderator today is Greg Pullman. Normally, he only misses the third Wednesday of every month because he's doing our game time at the game day at the Holdfast Brewing Company. But this week he's got family obligations, so he couldn't make it here. But he is our
Yeah.
director of tabletop gaming, so he'll come in and he'll talk about board games, card games, some Kickstarter projects, and Steam projects, especially when it comes to storyboard type games. So that's what he handles here. And together we kind of just remind everybody that we're still here and thinking about him. While we can't necessarily meet up for live event coverage of like the actual Gaming Arts Media Entertainment Expo or the Picnic at the End of the Universe or things like that, we are still in the works as far as possibly running a late year Picnic at the End of the Universe. We're waiting to see if the Parks Pavilion is still even available, but we'll keep you guys updated as we get updates on that. There's not a lot going on in our media section this week, so we're going to be doing a lot more stuff outside of like just generic coverage of Disney and the CW verse that we normally end our show with. Right off the bat, though, we're going to start off. Philip has got something queued up here for about Activision that I think is pretty important.
Yes. So I think this story deserves a little bit of back story to it first because um, there's been a recent lawsuit against Activision Blizzard filed by we should make sure I get the California. Oh, the California Department of Fair Employment and Housing is who is suing Activision Blizzard um, after like a 2-year investigation about what is being described as a pervasive frat boy culture where female employees are sexually harassed and paid and promoted less than their male counterparts.
Oh,
Um,
in this day and age, it's criminal.
yeah, and it's so bad, and there's a lot of different quotes and things here and there, so there's a lot of information out there, and I don't want to like read through every little thing, but like there's one of the higher level people who was so notorious within the company for sexually harassing the female employees that people started referring to his office as the Crosby office, a like a slight adjustment to the name for in reference to Bill Cosby.
Mm. And I actually misspoke
Um,
earlier. I said in this day and age, that's actually been criminal for a while. It's just we would think that by now we would have stamped this out,
I
but
know,
it's
I
still
know.
going and it's terrible.
You, you would really hope so. So yeah, there's this huge lawsuit going on. If I remember, I think the numbers were they now are up to like 10,000. There's like a collective uh letter that's being signed by their employees, which I'm now seeing the latest numbers is they're up to 3,100 current and former employees have signed this like open letter where they've organized a walkout. And so yeah, Activision Blizzard staff have organized a walkout, and there's like additional protesters that have been showing up today calling for strikes. So they're asking for today, for at least today, for people to not log into any games, any online games that's run by Activision Blizzard as a picket line sort of a situation to strike against them. If you're not immediately familiar with what they make, the couple of their biggest properties are the Warcraft franchise, so World of Warcraft, Warcraft 2, whatever. I think that's the one that's in development. And then we've got, Diablo, the Diablo franchise, Call of Duty, any of the Call of Duty stuff. And I mean, they're one of the largest video game companies in the world.
Yeah, yeah. One of the biggest MMO properties out there, of course, is World of Warcraft. But
Yeah,
also behind World of Warcraft, there's a whole subset of video games in that kind of thing. That's the craft ones. So it's Warcraft and Spycraft and Starcraft that all
yeah,
came out. Um, and then of course Diablo, which is every version of Diablo that's come out has won Game of the Year, and so Diablo 1, Diablo 2, and Diablo 3. So it's a major thing as well.
yeah.
So yeah,
So,
you're absolutely right there.
for the walkout from today, the walkout organizers made 4 demands for their management. End mandatory arbitration clauses in employee contracts. I'm going to read it as it says here. As the organizers say, they protect abusers and limit the ability of victims to seek restitution. Adopt policies to improve diversity, equity, and inclusion. Publish compensation data, promotion rates, and salary ranges for employees of all genders and ethnicities, and hire a third party to audit the company's structure, human resources department, and executives. This is a lot of this is so that so they can't hide behind uh, any screens on discrimination based on
Yeah,
gender or sex, gender,
they can't put
or
up any corporate smoke
race.
screens.
Yeah.
Yeah,
As
I can agree with all of that.
as a general rule, for people who don't know, because I know this is a common belief out there. A lot of people believe that it's illegal, or hang on, let me rephrase that. A lot of people believe that they're not allowed to tell their coworkers their wages. Like that's a common belief because a lot of managers will tell their staff that you can't discuss your wages, keep that private. But it is in fact illegal for a manager to say that, for a supervisor or anyone in charge that is responsible for wages at your place of work to tell you that you can't share your wages. That was a law passed that was federal from I think it was 1964 as a Protection Rights Act. So that because if a company is telling you you're not allowed to discuss your wages with your coworkers, they are probably screwing somebody over. It might be you, it might be the person sitting next to you, but it was a common practice to help keep people of color and people and women from being able to know that their
Not getting fair
Caucasian
wages.
male counterparts are getting considerably paid more, even if they're doing the same work, because
Right.
of sexist or racist employers.
Yeah. There's a
So,
caveat on that law
uh,
too. A lot
yeah.
of people
No, I
don't
can't say
realize
what's the caveat.
the caveat. They can tell you you can't discuss it during work hours on the clock, and that's how a lot of them try to get away with it because they are allowed to tell you at work you're supposed to be doing work and not discussing that kind of stuff. What they cannot do is tell you you can't say it at all because you have every right to do it. You can do it on break, you can do it on lunch, you can do it on meetings specifically having to do with HR. You just cannot do it um, like on the clock when you're supposed to be doing your work. And that's the thing that a lot of them try to use the smoke screen to allow them to say, "Oh no, we're not telling them they can't do it. We
Yeah.
just want them to focus on their work."
Mm.
And
So
that's how they get away with it a lot of times.
it could be. I know that I I first learned about it when I was in college because I had to take a business law class, and it was
Right.
a major subject that was talked about in my business law class. And then sometime later, when I was working for a company, probably shouldn't mention which company now at this point,
No, probably not a
but
good idea.
but a previous company I worked for, I got a raise, and the manager I had at the time, um, told me not to let any of my coworkers find out how much of a raise I got,
They
and because it'll make them jealous or something like that. And I told him that. I was like, I immediately replied. I was like, you can't. It's illegal for you to say that to me. It's illegal for you to tell me to keep my wages private. He's like, no, it's company policy. Check your handbook. And so
It doesn't matter.
I checked the handbook because if it was in the handbook that we weren't allowed to discuss wages, I was absolutely going to sue this $1 billion company.
That's right.
Uh, because and it wasn't. I ended up talking all the way up to I went to HR. Within a few minutes, I was in the HR office, talking to them. And at this company, I'll give them some credit. The HR did their job. That's not happening at Activision Blizzard. HR is not doing their job at Activision Blizzard. But my former employer, HR was doing their job because I went to them, and I kind of have a little bit of a dramatic nature, right? I go in there and I ask them for a copy of the handbook. And so the HR woman that I happen to be talking to, she gives me a handbook. And then I go to hand it back to her, and I was like, now, can you please show me where in here it says that I'm not allowed to discuss my wages with anybody, including my coworkers? And she's like, that's not a policy. That's not going to be in here. And then I'd like to file a complaint against my manager because he just told me I'd be fired if I discussed my wages. And that was a threat, was that I could be fired for discussing my wages because it's in the handbook that says that. But it wasn't true. And that got that's pretty much all I had to say to get her to get me directly in touch with the VP of HR, who then had a talk with my manager. And that manager didn't talk to me for months, and I got an extra $1 raise on top of the raise I had just gotten.
Yeah.
As like an apology for the trouble.
Threatening your job. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And as some of you may or may not know, my college degrees was to be what's called a systems analyst. And if you're familiar with the movie Office Space, remember the two Bobs that come in and tell them how to make their business more profitable?
Yes. Yeah, I remember that.
That's a systems analyst. A lot of people think that we're just computer guys, and we are. Computer's a big part of what we do because now, especially in the heyday, automation was one of the biggest ways that companies got to where they were saving money. But it's not always the way to do it. We come in and we tell people how they can reorganize their employee structure, their workforce, and everything in order to make their business more profitable. Basically, how to tighten everything up. And one of the things they do go over is that law right there, because it's very important that you make it quite clear to your employees that, yeah, it's not appropriate to talk during business hours about it when you're supposed to be doing other things. But they can't forbid you from speaking about your wages during your designated break times,
Yeah.
or during your off-duty times. They can discourage you from trying to talk to people that are outside the company. They don't necessarily.
They can't.
They can discourage. They can discourage.
They can't tell you who they can't tell you who you can talk to about your wages in any capacity. It's your information to do with what you want. They can't discourage it or anything.
They can discourage you from going to a direct competitor and revealing exact numbers. I know that, at least in most states. But they cannot say, you can't say, I make less or more than that. But they can't, you're not really supposed to discuss exact numbers because that is considered private information. Just because you're not supposed, they're not supposed to be causing conflict with a direct competitor.
Maybe. Yeah. But either way, don't let employers take advantage. Keep in mind, any employer that tells you you can't discuss your wages, they're hiding something.
Oh yeah, a lot of people try to tell you can't discuss something. I think I mentioned it when we were having our power outages, and they tried to tell the people in my trailer park we couldn't call the electric company to report our power outage. Yeah, we have a contract with the electric company, not them, for our electric power, which means they can't tell me I can't do it. So, you don't do that, right?
I know. Me personally, I probably won't be satisfied with Activision Blizzard unless they kick Bobby Kotick out of the company. He is the top dog there,
If
and
he's the one with the most complaints under this particular thing, I mean, the company would almost be committing financial suicide if they didn't make him at least their scapegoat. You know,
yeah,
they're going to want to fire some people over this, and it
yeah.
sounds like this guy's got enough of his target on the back that he is probably a primary that's got to go.
Well,
Um,
if Kotick himself isn't directly harassing, he is permitting it to happen.
he's
Right?
promoting
He
it.
is. Yeah, he's promoting it. He's brushing it under the rug.
He's making it more
He's
possible for the people
he's
to do it.
he's protecting the ones that
He's
are harassing.
he's enabling it.
Yeah, he's an
Yes,
enabler.
yeah, and because of the fact that, like you said, he's to the point where he's even got a negative nickname throughout the office for it. They're going to have to probably make it an example of at least him, and probably several people directly under him,
Yeah.
and maybe over him. Uh,
I, I
but
don't
but
believe there's anyone over him, over Bobby anyway. Bobby Kotick specifically. I think he's the very top of the chain there. But
yeah,
there was another named individual, and I'm trying to remember. I'm trying to find it real quick, but it's not that important at the moment, I guess. There was this other, the one who has the office that they referred to as the Crosby Suite.
oh, I thought
He's
he was the one that had the office with the Cosby.
no, he's not the Crosby Suite guy. He's someone else. But basically all the top people are problematic. Um and one of them, okay, so there was one of them, and I wish I had all the names up ready right now. One of their top guys, his response to this lawsuit was something about how he didn't even, realize there were any issues or whatever, and he thinks that they're a very, pro-feminism group, etc. Right? And he, like, if any of this was happening, he had no idea. But he's one of the main people that has been reported as being problematic in a lot of ways in the way he treats people. And there is this public incident, and it's not as severe as this, but it was kind of a ridicule thing. There was a public thing where several people from Blizzard were at a panel taking questions from an audience, right? And there was this woman in the audience, and I just saw this video a couple of days ago. There was this woman in the audience. This video is a little older now, but it's relevant to what's been happening. It's an image, a representation of a larger problem. There was a woman in the audience who asked if they were ever if they would put out some content for the female characters of their World of Warcraft game that didn't look like they were from Victoria's Secret magazines, and they ridiculed her for it. They laughed at her, made jokes about her, and they're like, "Where do you? Well, what should we make them look like? What catalog should we pull them out of then?" And
Yeah,
yeah, she was
but
just mocked and laughed at over this. And she was just asking to be able to have some female characters that
yeah, some female players want to be able to choose modest clothing options. They want to not
yeah
necessarily be in chainmail bikinis and be
yeah
playing the Viking centerfold.
yeah,
You know, and
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 so
and the female players are the ones who are more likely to want it because unfortunately these games do cater to the teen male libido. It's one
yeah
of the target things that they do is they try to make them more and more overly sexualized because that gets more and more uh, teenagers to play the game.
yeah
But yeah, they do have to give those options at least so that if somebody does want to be that, they don't end up like several female players do and just end up playing male characters just so they don't get ogled and propositioned all the time.
yeah. This isn't World of Warcraft is not extreme beach volleyball. It's a fantasy
Mm.
RPG game. Let them wear modest armor.
If they want to wear it, if they want to wear the chainmail bikini, then they can go out and buy the chainmail bikini. But if they want to wear a
Yeah,
freaking sackcloth robe, they can wear that. You
yeah.
know, uh,
And so yeah, it felt just so very sexist the way they were mocking her over this question, over this request. It was just
yeah,
like, and this is the guy, and one of the people that was mocking her was the guy who like responded to these sexual harassment accusations with like, "Oh, I had no idea that sexual harassment was happening, uh, in my office." You know?
yeah. Well, a lot of people are under misconceptions about what constitutes sexual harassment. If you've ever
Yeah,
done like I'm sure you have, Philip. I know I've done several dozen of those sexual harassment seminars. They'll tell you that even if it's consensual between two employees, all the other employees listening can consider it sexual harassment if you're doing stuff like using a bunch of sexist terms or sexy nicknames or things that they can say it's a hostile work environment. So people have to
yeah,
realize that it's you don't live in a vacuum. You don't live in an island. Everybody around you is affected by what you do. So you do have to take that into consideration when you go to do things. And if you're told to stop once, that should be more than enough. You know,
yeah,
I mean, because it could be a married couple that happen to work at the same company using cutesy names that could make another employee uncomfortable. But the fact that they make that employee uncomfortable is all it takes for it to technically be sexual harassment.
yeah,
You know, the idea is to not make people uncomfortable in the workspace. And things like only ever having chainmail bikinis and nearly nude avatars and overly exaggerated hourglass figures as the only way you can make your character in the game, uh, it's going to cause friction.
yeah. So it's been kind of a messed up, between this and then we just had, I don't know if we talked about it on our channel or not, but Ubisoft just had a big deal come up recently about um sexual harassment in their offices as well.
We didn't touch
And
on that,
so
no.
so yeah, Ubisoft is having a similar problem um about sexual harassment in their offices and not cleaning it up, not improving things. So
People need to start
I'm
to learn and realize that
yeah,
everybody at the workplace should be judged and treated equally and with proper respect. And if anything, if they're judged on anything, it should be their performance of their job. That's it.
yeah,
If they can perform their job
yeah,
appropriately, they should be, the best person for the job should be the one getting the best pay. The one that comes in and works 40, 68 hour, 80 hours a week and has a nose to the grindstone and isn't always chit-chatting instead of working, that's the guy that should be making the most money, not the blonde-haired, blue-eyed white guy.
good.
you know, uh,
So
we're
for
not in
for
it.
a little while,
Yeah.
or for now anyway, for now until I get news of some actual change happening, I'm not intending on spending any more money on either Ubisoft or Activision Blizzard products. I might go back and play ones I already have bought, but I don't plan on buying anything new. Like I was intending on getting the new Far Cry 6 game this fall, but I'm backing out on buying that from because it's an Ubisoft property.
And people should also realize that means don't make microtransactions with them either.
Yeah,
Because that everything is microtransactions support that company and basically support this negative behavior during a
yeah,
boycott. So if you're going to boycott.
yeah,
I have no problem with somebody plugging in their old Diablo 2 disc on their computer and playing Diablo 2 for free, not getting any DLC content, not buying any
yeah,
microtransactions. But as soon as you start buying microtransactions, you're basically breaking the boycott. You're crossing the strike line,
yeah.
and so get behind these employees because they deserve fair treatment.
Hmm.
All
Yeah,
right,
we got. we got a lot of striking, a lot of boycotting to do right now, but I think maybe time to move on to a lighter subject. What do you
Yeah,
got, Doc?
lighter subject, and I usually try to get a little bit lighter. Let's see, what did I have for my first thing? Okay, we got a lot of new products out there on the market in science, technology, and stuff. This is the Spine Tech's sectional new age chair system. It's currently in Kickstarter. It's versatile furniture that you can reconfigure in a lot of different shapes to fit what you're looking for. And the starter set is only like $75, from what I understand. And there's lots of different configurations you can do with this. It's one of the many various things that they're now making available to
How does this
people.
work?
Each of these individual lines here uh, is a sectional piece that hooks up and folds and locks into place, so that it contours and cushions the body, and you can reshape it in like various different shapes. I don't know what all they've got. Is
Can,
like here's
can-
it shows.
are we able to see a video of how it works? Because
You
this
know, we
is the
don't like to.
craziest looking chair.
You can go and look for videos online. Remember, we don't like to run videos too much here because we don't want to get our stream dinged for
Yeah,
replaying stuff that's other people's content. But
yeah.
if you were to go uh, and look up Spine Techs on Facebook, I mean on YouTube, you should be able to find some videos about that. I bet you this video right here is there. It's 61 elements that interlock together. You can see them here as individual parts. And here's one that shows kind of some of the various kind of configurations that you can end up putting together with these parts. And
Okay. I mean,
looks really, really versatile. I mean, especially for houses where you've got limited space and want to try a few different configurations and things. So there now, I probably could show the video because it is on a Kickstarter, but we just don't want to
yeah,
risk it.
yeah.
Just because, but like you can see here, even some of these animated GIFs shows you kind of how it links together in the
Okay,
pieces.
okay.
And because depending on which side you put it facing, is what direction it'll lean towards and support the weight to. It's supposed to be really sturdy, high quality, easy to clean.
Wonder
Uh,
what its weight limit is.
I'm not sure. That would be something to really look into. But it looks like it's
What?
something that I would really be
You
interested
see
to
the one
see.
with the two girls like rocking back and forth? It's like a teeter totter.
This one, yeah,
The GIF. That's pretty amusing.
yeah. I mean, you've just turned a chair into a playset for your kids. And you're not worried
That,
about them rocking their regular chair and falling and hurting themselves, because this is meant to do it.
yeah.
Where a lot of kids, you tell them don't rock in your seat, and now instead you'll say, okay, if you're going to rock in your seat, then turn it into the rocking horse. But
Bintex. I spelt it wrong.
it's spine text is how they pronounced it when I watched the video I watched on it. There's a lot
Okay.
of new tech like this coming out. In fact, Facebook has been featuring some videos called 8 Amazing Inventions, and each one's got a different set of 8 inventions on it. And there have been things like drones and auto drive buses and air taxis and sectional furniture like this that you can customize on the spot. They even had one, I don't remember what it was called. It was a cloud thing that was a folding sofa uh, that basically folded, flat, but then you could pull it out and make it into a sofa that seated 8 people, and had support too. And I was like, wow. I mean, I would have to see how the support worked. But look, they show you like what the sets look like. An
Yeah.
adult set, a child set, and what you can put together with them. I would love the purple color myself. Um, And oh yeah, yeah, here's all the different kind of configurations you can do. At least the ones they've thought of. I bet you
Yeah.
somebody who was enterprising could come up with more and combine sets to make them even more interesting. Because they would be
I like that
interconnectable.
one that looks like a little car, little go kart.
That one right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or there's an open car right there. Yeah. So I thought this was like a really neat thing to share. This shows you kind of the internal structure of the individual sections, so you can see how they're reinforced and everything to support more weight and distribute the weight so they don't like break or crumble on people.
Mm.
You know, and I guess is the evolution of the structure. And this, I assume, is the final one, since usually you go from left to right, top to bottom. This
Yeah.
must be the last kind of iteration, because this is the evolution of the idea. But it's a lot of internal support structure, and there's just so much you could do with a system like this that I would uh, be totally for getting at least a $75 base set just to check. Now, as I've said on many other occasions, I only generally support one Kickstarter a year, and I already did mine this year.
Yeah.
But it's another one where I'm tempted. Usually, Greg comes in and brings me some temptations for
Mhm.
Kickstarters, but every once in a while, I bring them in myself. And yeah, it's obviously it's out of the UK because the basic thing is done in euros. Um, but for 60 pounds sterling, you can get the Secret Star, which is about $75 US. And this one, basically, you get uh, the Secret Star, which I'm not sure what all the details are about that. It basically adds some lighting to it, though. It looks like integrated LED lighting.
Yeah, I saw there was some integrated LED lighting further up on this page.
So
Just
yeah, this is the this is getting closer and closer to that George Jetson kind of uh, custom redecorate your house in minutes kind of thing that you watch in a lot of the cartoons. Because we keep wanting to get to Star Trek and George Jetson and stuff with the flying cars and the jetpacks and all that, but
is that
still,
it's George? Yeah, I guess George is the dad on the Jetsons, huh?
yes, the Jetsons is George Jetson, and it was a spin-off of the Flintstones. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, a lot of those things we see in shows like that and shows like Star Trek, we've been working towards, and a lot we've actually managed. Like the new flip phones now, you got a flip phone with a folding screen now that you can get. In Galaxy makes one where the actual screen folds, so
Yeah.
it's more break resistant, and
Ooh,
you
it's
because it
it's
uses a
slick.
flexible. Yeah, it looks slick. I know. It gives you a
If I
nice.
remember right, it's using organic LED technology.
Yeah, something like that. I'll have to bring up something like that in a future show. But there's so many things, and of course, the flip phone itself, the original flip phones were based on the Star Trek original communicators that it flipped up and you went, and and that's where they got the idea kind of for the flip phone thing. And then we went from flip phones to smartphones, which are basically just a handheld screen that's like some other um, movies and TVs. I even saw there's a VR AR systems that are currently in the works. They're in the planning stages that come with a light pin that basically let you pull the images off the screen in AR, similar to how Tony Stark pulls the images off of his holo table
Yeah,
in the Avengers. And I'm looking forward to that for design. When you pull it
yeah,
apart and then take the engine apart in 3 dimensions and turn it, twist it, and add new components and stuff. That
Whoa.
is what I want. Being a nerd, these are the kind of things that make me nerd salivate. you know, and this may seem like a small thing compared to that, but this is still a pretty innovative idea.
Yeah.
And so I would keep your eye out to not just spine techs, but other things. If you can get a chance, uh, look for the videos and the video channel of Facebook that says 8 Extraordinary Inventions. And each episode has 8 different inventions that you can look at, many of which are currently available. I mean, there's full blown, you move a semi truck up with a cube in the back, you hit a couple buttons, and a whole house unfolds out in 3 dimensions.
Yeah.
With movable walls and everything. And it's just amazing what some of the things they can do. And those would be great for like emergency quarters during disaster relief. You pull the truck in and create mobile hospital care units and stuff. That these full fold out things that are done in minutes instead of, hours and days and weeks that it takes, structural engineers to do it. If you've got them on hand for emergency response, that's exactly what you want. It kind of reminds you of the tents in the Quidditch World Cup at Harry Potter.
Yeah.
Pitch a tent, go inside, and it's a full blown freaking apartment.
Yeah.
But this
Oh
is
man.
science's version, not magic. But then again, any sufficiently advanced science would seem as magic, as they say.
Yeah.
So anyway, this is one of the things I thought it was just neat enough that I should share with us this week.
Yeah. I always find it funny when people get that quote backwards. I used to know a guy who constantly would insist that the saying is magic is just science we don't understand yet. I'm like, no.
That's not the
It's
quote. It's basically
that's
what the
not
quote
the
means, but that's not the quote. Yeah,
it's not even technically what the quote means. Like if you were in a world that had magic, that magic, I mean, I don't know if you could really call the magic technology depending on your definition of magic. But it's
yeah,
just a point of the point is if you see a technology that's beyond your understanding, you wouldn't be able to differentiate it between magic or otherwise.
right,
Which isn't the same thing. It's saying that you wouldn't be able to tell.
right. And I forget who did the original quote, but it is a great
Uh,
quote, and it's used a lot. And usually, I can say it off the top of my head, but I can't think of it right now.
I think it was Isaac Asimov, the guy
It
who
might
came up
have
with the
been.
rules of robotics.
Yeah, it could. Yeah, because you had Heinlein and Asimov, and them. They were all contemporaries, and then between them, they came up with a lot of the stuff that we consider as standard nowadays. But
Yeah,
it came from Heinlein and Asimov and Orson Scott Card and people of that nature. So, but anyway, we're going to get off of this subject now. We spent a lot of time on this future tech. I might start bringing in some other future tech gadgets in future episodes as I see the ones that really interest me. I think that are really neat. But let's go on to your next subject, which has to do with
yeah.
our
It was
favorite
Arthur C.
consoles out
Clarke,
now.
by the way. It was Arthur C. Clarke who
Clarke.
said it. Yeah.
That's who yeah, okay. Here we go. And then your next subject, we're talking about sales.
Yes. So, Xbox, Microsoft CEO, at Satya Nadella. Anyway, basically Microsoft just said that the Xbox Series S and the Xbox Series X are the fastest selling Xbox consoles ever, with more consoles sold life to date than any previous generation. And the same is also true with PlayStation 5. The PlayStation 5 is the fastest selling PlayStation console in PlayStation history, from any previous generation. The PS5 has sold over 10 million consoles a month faster than the PS4 was able to do, and that's including during this pandemic with chip shortages and supply shortages. It still was the fastest selling, sold faster than the PS4 by a month to get to the 10 million milestone.
Yeah, they're flying off the
Um,
shelves.
yeah, and
That,
Xbox has sold 6.5 million of their Xboxes, uh, which both of those numbers are just crazy for what are
console
we at
sales.
now? 8 months, the first 8 months of their life
Yeah,
span.
yeah. The
And
March Madness has sold me.
not only are the consoles selling well, but the games are selling really well. PlayStation, I don't have the exact numbers up right now, but PlayStation has said that they put out some numbers on their game sales of how many units have sold of their Ratchet and Clank game and their Spider-Man game and Returnal. And of those three, like those are the three like exclusive games that have come out only on the PlayStation 5. Well, no, as Miles Morales also was on PS4. But for the PS5 versions, I think Returnal was the lowest selling one, and it still sold. Um, I think it was in the ballpark of like 600,000 units, which might sound like a small number if you were comparing it to like a PS4 game sales or a multi-platform sales. But we're talking about one out of every 20 PS5s uh, has a Returnal game for it. It's a really huge attachment rate for a new game that's not a part of a franchise, and especially for the first AAA title from Housemarque.
Yeah, that's a
Um,
20.
and
That's a 20% saturation already.
and so they are already yeah. Hang on, I might have gotten my was 1 out of 20 right or 1 out of. Hang on, they sold 600,000 units of the game, and there's 10 million consoles. So yeah, a little bit more than 1 out of 20 consoles
Or 1 out of
have the game.
20, so that's a 5% saturation rate.
Yeah, 5% attach rate, which Sony is, as they should, is calling that a success for the platform,
Oh yeah,
for the new system,
oh
and
yeah.
that's very encouraging. To see that see how they're responding to those, and how that game is doing, and how well it's doing. Because that was a quality game, and that's something I was worried about, was that this quality game was going to be
Overshadowed in the
undervalued by
market.
the overshadowed the market, but it's doing great, and Sony's happy with it. So, it looks like they're probably gonna keep Housemarque around to do more, to keep doing more. There's a reason Sony bought them up.
Right. Well, that's something because especially like you said with the pandemic and a lot of people in economic dire straits. Now, as I mentioned to you offline, part of that is that some people are using like their stimulus checks, and how they're stimulating the market is by buying new consoles and stuff. Because a lot of these people live from check to check. They normally don't have the extra money to go out and like buy a new TV or a new console or anything. So they got to be real careful. But some of them, especially the ones that got the stimulus check, but were also considered essential workers, so we're still making their full paycheck. They could take that extra check out, stimulate the economy by going out and buying a PlayStation 5 or an Xbox Series X or Series S, and
Yeah.
they are stimulating the economy. As long as their
Yep.
bills and stuff are still paid, they're doing what that check is for. The check
Yeah.
is to stimulate the economy because you buy Xboxes and you buy PlayStations, you're providing jobs for people who make these things. You
Make
know,
them, sell them, distribute them, ship them,
work on them. Work on
design
the
them,
voice acting
repair
them.
them.
Yeah, all of this, and so you are stimulating the economy. Now, you are supposed to, of course, catch up with your bills first with these checks. That's what they were really for.
Yes.
But then
Yes.
they are called stimulus checks. They want to stimulate the economy. So that means that you do go out and you do buy some luxury items with them. It's just, I don't know necessarily if it's right to go out and have a shopping cart full of luxury items going in front of a bunch of families that can barely feed themselves. But you can still get yourself a PlayStation or get yourself an Xbox or get yourself a nice new outfit or a new TV or something with your stimulus check, and don't feel too bad about that. As long as your bills are paid, that's what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of it that's helped out a little bit. And it's just these new consoles are just amazing in what they can pull off, and they're just getting better and better.
Yeah.
Uh,
There's some other numbers. Here's something interesting. Do you remember us talking a while back about MLB the Show, the
yes,
baseball game that it's developed, it's made by PlayStation, but MLB made a deal with Xbox to put it on the Xbox platform as well and put it on Game Pass. They put out some numbers for that game. The game has sold 2 million copies, 2 million units of MLB The Show, the new version. I think it's 2021, maybe 2022, whatever the number is at the end of the name. The new MLB The Show has 2 million units sold and a total of 4 million active, copies of the game out there, which you can extrapolate to mean 2 million people are on Game Pass. So about half the people bought the game and about half the people are playing it on Game Pass. It's 4 million people playing MLB The Show. Which I don't remember what the previous numbers are, but I think this is the best numbers that we've seen for an MLB The Show in a while.
and we've said it before on this show that Game Pass has been Microsoft's focus, and they're trying to put everything and anything they can on it. And
Yeah,
I think it's a good move for them because
it's
it's really stimulating their market.
and it's kind of wild how this franchise has been a PlayStation exclusive for like 20 years, and is even developed by PlayStation. So if you're playing it on Game Pass, when you launch it, it has a PlayStation logo pop up on the screen for a second. Uh, Half of the 4 million user base are on Game Pass. That is I don't know. It's just a really fascinating factoid for me.
Yeah, it means that a direct competitor, PlayStation, wanted the game enough that they go on Game Pass to play it without having to ever
Yeah,
buy a PlayStation console, which
yeah.
basically is feeding their competitors. But
And yeah, I
you
was a
know,
little bit worried. I was a little bit worried that the PlayStation's version wouldn't sell well because it's on Game Pass for the Xbox, and then
but
on the
it
PlayStation it's $70 for the PS5.
but it looks like it's matching almost unit for unit.
Yeah, it looks like it. Crazy times. All right,
Indeed.
so I think that's all I had to say. Did you say I'm mute?
No, I'm not on mute.
Okay.
I was chewing.
So yeah, so yeah, I think
I
that's all
chew
I wanted
ice.
to say on these. Just phenomenal news about both platforms, both selling super well. Games on them selling well. It's just
And that's
overall,
what we like to hear.
the
We like
PlayStation, or I mean, the video game world is just growing. It's a
yes.
healthy place.
It's not in danger of falling off anytime soon.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's go on to our next subject. Now, as some of you know, I like to recommend book series as I'm a Kindle Unlimited subscriber, so I usually recommend books that you can read on Kindle Unlimited for free if you are a subscriber. And I like to look at what's called lit RPG books and superhero novels as my primary. And then I also do some urban fantasy. But today's recommendation is a 6-book series currently called the Pantheon Saga. Uh, Starts with the first book in the series. It's by C.C. Akiki, I think is how he pronounces his name, or she pronounces. I'm not sure if it's male or female author, but they have 6 books in the series. It's superhero novels. The first book is called Age of Heroes, and what happens in it is basically the big superhero, most famous superhero of the times, Titan, basically their version of Superman or Captain America, um, dies to his arch nemesis, Lord Borealis. And it comes to be that there's uh, the force that gave Titan his power moves on to another person, which is a little known fact in the world. And so this uh, other kid, Hugo Malalu, he's partially Hawaiian, uh, gets the power of superhero, and so he starts doing the superhero thing. Um, and he goes through and throughout the books, he discovers and gets rid of some corruption in some of the superhero teams, and he fights supervillains, and he also has the normal angsty stuff of being a teenager in high school, trying to balance. Does the Peter Parker thing. He tries to balance his high school life with his superhero life and not giving up his secret identity. Um, it's a really intense set of books. I do recommend it if you like those kind of characters. The powers of the name he gives his characters is originally is Aegis, which is of course an old Roman shield. Um, for the longest time, he's Aegis, and anyway, his power set is very similar to the standard superhero Superman power set. So he can fly, super strong, nigh on invulnerable. Um, he has a sonic scream, which Superman has manifested all kinds of powers uh, when he needs them.
Yeah.
Well, little known fact about Superman's power set is one of his powers is kind of like makeup powers when he needs them.
Yeah.
But people don't realize that about Superman because it's not one of the most published one of his powers. The reason that anytime a new power seems to be needed, he suddenly has it, isn't because of some Deus Ex Machina or anything. It's because he actually has a hidden power that allows his body to improvise a new power when he needs it. And if he
Except for
uses it
kryptonite
enough,
resistance.
right, and then if he uses that power enough, it becomes part of his regular repertoire, not a one-time thing. But like for instance, in the movies, there's that time when Superman grabs his symbol off of his chest and throws it. It grows and enwraps one of Zod's lieutenants and knocks him to the ground. Well, he never uses it again, so it's not like a power he uses all the time. So
Yeah.
it's not in his regular repertoire, but he's able to do it occasionally. But
There was also another Superman movie where he hypnotized Lois Lane so that she
with a
forgot who
kiss.
he was.
With a
Yeah.
kiss. Yes.
Yeah.
And then he's shot beams of laser energy. We're used to him doing the heat vision from his eyes and cold breath from his mouth, but he has also shot lasers from his hands before. But it's not a typical power for him. It's one of his improvised powers. And that's the thing.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, Hugo Malalu has a lot of that same basic power set. And so he's out there and he's dealing with the angst of trying to be a teenager while also being the spiritual inheritor of Titan's mantle as the most powerful superhero. Um, or an Omega level superhero. I think this is the book series that uses that term. I've read a lot of superhero novels in the recent time, so he might not be the one that uses Omega. So I'm not absolutely sure. It would, if one of the books in the series was called Omega, then that might tell me.
Yeah. Using the name Titan, you said he used the word name Titan for one of his characters, so
Titan is the
it would
character
be
that died.
yeah.
that he took the
So
place of.
it wouldn't be much of a stretch to think that he has likely uses the word Omega somewhere.
Like I said, I know for a fact he uses the name Aegis, which is of course that Roman shield. Plus, it's the name of a few spells in Dungeons and Dragons, which are basically shielding kind of spells. Um, but
Oh, he called himself Shield.
yeah,
My name is
basically
Shield.
because he calls himself
Basically,
Aegis, which means he calls himself Roman for shield. He says he's the sword and shield of the Roman Empire, kind of thing. Um, and he's got various friends around him who either start to demonstrate superpowers or are techs and create basic superpower stuff to help them with him. He's, like I said, he's Hawaiian, which is a different origin than you used to seeing a lot of, um, which is nice. He's an awkward teenager. However, he's an awkward teenager that has also off and on been a member of a competitive dance troupe. So he can actually, freaking bust a major move even before he got his superpowers, because a lot of times in these characters can't even like freaking dance without stepping on their own feet
show
until
me
they
your
get their
moves.
superpowers. Until they get their superpowers and they get like super agility and confidence and stuff, then suddenly they're freaking John Travolta from Flashdance or Footloose. But no, but Hugo was not only a competitive dancer,
Was
but in it,
Travolta in Footloose?
he was in Saturday Night Fever anyway.
Yeah,
Footloose, I can't remember if it was Travolta or not. It's been a long
that was
time since I
Kevin
watched
Bacon,
it.
wasn't it?
I think so. But anyway, he's not only in a dance troupe, but amongst the dancers, he's considered one of the best. But yeah,
Mm.
he was originally a scrawny teen. Now, when he gets the superpowers, he suddenly bulks up. But nobody ever seems to equate that with the fact that now there's a new superhero on the market. They just think of, oh, well, growing spurt. He just suddenly went and like grew to become like freaking big badass muscle man.
That's kind of my problem with the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man movies. Like, I think in his first movie, Amazing Spider-Man, isn't there a scene where he like leaps like 30 feet through the air in the basketball court and slam dunks and breaks the glass? Um, and like gets stuck for a second, and no one seems to question how he's doing that.
Yeah,
They're
I
just
know,
upset
right?
that he broke the glass.
Right. It's just that 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 license that they use in some of these movies. It's superheroes. It's just like the whole glasses thing with Clark Kent. Just putting on a pair of glasses does not hide your identity, man. I'm sorry. You got to do a heck of a lot more than just put on a pair of thick rimmed glasses. But then again, it's like in Ready Player One. If you have the Clark Kent glasses, you actually change your whole dang face by putting the glasses on. So
Yeah,
maybe there's a magic power to those glasses. After all, they just never publicize it.
yeah,
uh,
yeah.
but
I
anyway,
used to think that way, and then I saw Zoe Deschanel without bangs, and I didn't recognize her until I saw that it
yeah,
was labeled.
she could be pretty good at blending though. Zoe
Yeah,
Deschanel's, I mean, she's gorgeous, but she has the ability to blend too, which is kind of contrary. You'd think that somebody that beautiful would have a really hard time passing
yeah.
as
Oh
plain,
man,
but she can pull off plain, or she can pull off different beautiful. And
almost almost every time I see Gary Oldman in something, I don't recognize him at first.
oh, right, like he was the one bad guy in the Fifth Element with that freaking half shiny dome on his face and shit.
He,
And,
he
and
blends
then
into every role so much that
he's amazing.
you can't tell it's him.
We need another mimic.
Yeah.
But anyway, so
Anyway,
if you're a fan of
And
comic
the
books, type characters, or superheroes, if you like to play superhero role playing games, and you want to get to read some heroes that aren't in just the normal old Marvel, DC, and Dark Horse, which is what everybody reads, um, check this out. I've recommended other superhero and, well, anti-hero type books before, and I'll probably recommend some more in the future. But this is a great series. There's only 6 books, like I said. They're all available on Kindle Unlimited. It's $10 a month. You can have 10 books checked out at a time. You can turn them back in and check them out, as fast as you want, anywhere you've got Wi-Fi. It'll keep track of your books across various platforms. So if you close it on a page on your Kindle and then you open it up on your computer, you can hit the sync button and it'll sync you to that page. So you don't have to worry about bookmarks and always carrying the exact same digital piece with you all the time. I read them on my phone. I read them on my tablet. I read them on my computer. I read them on my Kindle. I
I should
there's some
probably
people that
invest
read
in a
them on
Kindle.
there's some people that read them on their smartphones. Now that's an awful small screen. I mean, smartwatches.
Yeah.
But that's an awful small screen. But
What?
hey,
How?
yeah,
Like,
I don't know. But there's some people that read
like
them on their smartwatches.
are they are the? I'm guessing the people reading books on their smartwatches are like those students who were in school and they put their head on their desk, but they're actually looking at the screen on their phone instead of
That could
napping.
be. And then, of course, there was it didn't really make it in the market real well, but there were the smart visors for a while that were basically the heads up display shades that
Yeah.
were supposed to be like the Google glasses.
Google Glass. Yeah. Okay. So
They
I
didn't
don't
really
know if
make
this is
it real
true.
well, but
I don't know if this is true, so take it with a grain of salt. But I've heard that I've heard that our military bought the patent to that, so and to develop it for military use instead of private citizen use. That could just be a crazy conspiracy theory that someone put out there, but that's what a friend of mine told me a while back.
that wouldn't
And I have
necessarily
not.
stop it from being able to be available to commercial use. It just means that new developments in it would
Yeah.
be focused on military applications. And they
The
put that
story
kind of
was
heads up.
the story was the reason it disappeared was because of that. Except for apparently the NFL is going to get use of it or something for their
I don't know.
stuff. I don't know.
The story I heard is that it's like how your Siris and your OK Googles will sometimes respond when you didn't even talk to them. That's
Yeah.
the thing that I heard that was screwing them up, is that you got too much information. It was automatically looking up everything that you looked at to the point where you were getting sensory overload because
Yeah.
it wasn't learning to differentiate when you were focusing on something and wanted to look it up. And
That
when you
is
were
probably
just
more
looking at
likely
something.
the truth.
Yeah, little bit of sensory overload there. But I mean, it still would be a neat device if they got it to the right balance to have.
Oh,
Because I think we
you
all
just
want heads-up displays.
you just reminded me of a book. I need to find the title of a book to make as a book recommendation because I read a book years ago about that takes place a little bit into the future where people have chips put directly into their brain, and the people use these chips to to see things, to look stuff up instead of having a phone or a computer. They call people through their chip in their brain to look something up on the internet. They look it up by thinking about it, and they control the chip with their brain. However, the
There's a couple
downside to it
series.
is they're frequently getting hit with advertisements that will hit directly into their brain.
Yeah,
And
there's
that
a couple of series that are based on that, and I can't remember any of the
yeah,
titles either. But I've probably read
and
the one you're thinking of.
the one I'm thinking of, there was a girl who that like you start off like mainly with a group of people who are like on vacation or they live on the moon or something, and then there's a girl there that's on vacation or something, and she has a chip, but her chip is faulty, and it causes and then a lot of the problems in the film is related to her faulty chip.
Mm.
And I can't remember it very well anymore because it's been more than a decade. But it was recommended to me by one of my teachers in school. So it was in high school. It was my senior year of high school. I read it. So we're talking decade and a half. So it's been a while. But yeah, one of my high school teachers recommended it to me based on my interest, and I loved it. But it didn't have. I don't think it ever. I don't think it had a sequel, at least at the time. I'm gonna have to try to look it up, see if I can find it, and
Yeah, I do that a
or if
lot.
anyone watching this thinks they know what book I'm talking about, shoot me a message and let me know what the name of that was.
Yep.
Anyway,
Hashtag book search. Here we go.
yeah,
All right.
yeah,
Next on our list of things we're going to talk about is Kenneth, Bridge of Spirits delayed once again. Go for it there, Lurch.
yeah. So Kenna, Bridge of Spirits, this beautiful looking PlayStation title that's coming out. It was scheduled to come out in August, which itself was a delayed date already. But they're pushing it back 1 month into September. September 21st. I just wanted to make a quick story on this. If you scroll down a little bit, you can see some of the pretty artwork. It looks like you already scrolled down. So yeah,
Yep.
it's got this. Some people are describing it having kind of a Pixar artistry. You're shooting bows. There seems to be like this magical elements going on, and they said they're just delaying it for to polish the platform, to polish the game. Instead of I'd rather them do this than to crunch it or release it unfinished. You know what I mean?
It's pretty sharp looking.
Yeah. So, um, it feels like it's one of those games I don't want to know too much about the story in advance of playing it. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I've seen enough. The footage I've watched of it has been enough to pique my interest to want to give it a try. Um,
It's got some killer artwork.
hmm And so it kind of feels like, in a way, it kind of looks like it might be a mix between like Breath of the Wild, Horizon kind of a thing, but in a more Pixar vibe.
Yeah. You know, that kind of artwork there, I would like to see a remake of something like Onimusha using something with that kind of detail.
Yeah,
You know, if you ever played the Onimusha games.
I
Um,
have not played those ones. I don't think.
oh, it was a
But
great title. What happened in Onimusha is your combat moves wasn't by character, they were by which weapon you equipped your character with.
okay.
So it actually linked the moves to the weapon, and then you could play the various characters in the game. And you had the ability, you know, even if you started in the one battleground, you and the other player could agree and just run from that to a different battleground. You didn't have to stick in that one battleground because they were all interlinked. Because it randomly started you in like you might be fighting in the bamboo fields and you want to go fight in the swamp, so you go run to the swamp instead
Yeah.
before you got your fight on. And it was
So,
really killer martial arts game. Well, not martial arts, but martial weapons arts game.
martial weapons. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I wanted to bring this up so that anyone that's out there that that was intending on picking this game up when it comes out, you just gotta wait. Yeah, a little bit longer, 1 extra month for them to finish polishing it up.
And a lot of delays are still happening in things, and part of that is COVID related,
Yes.
and part of that is just people wanting to put that little extra spit polish on something,
Yeah,
and there's
I feel
nothing
like
wrong with that.
we're having more delays now than ever, and I feel like it's two very strong things. One, the COVID-19 effect. Two, the Cyberpunk 2077 effect. They don't want to put out a game that's buggy, but they
Right.
also don't want to get a reputation for crunch. They don't want to crunch people anymore. Crunch culture in video game development is becoming very unpopular these days,
It's
and so
going the
less and less
way
companies are doing it.
going the
Yeah,
way of the
it's
dodo.
finally going away.
Yeah. Uh, and because of the fact that so many developers are already putting delays in because of things like COVID, developers now feel a little bit more at ease about announcing a delay and not getting crucified for it.
Yeah,
Because used to be you announced a delay and everybody, there was a groan you could hear around the world. Ugh, you know,
yeah,
but now they're looking at it, it's like, you know what? If they need to delay it because of COVID, that's absolutely understandable.
yeah,
If they want to delay it because they want to make sure they're giving us a better game with less bugs and better visuals, kudos to them. And then they're
yeah,
coming out with a superior product because of it. So who wins in
yeah.
that? Everybody. Everybody wins in
Hmm.
that situation because you're getting better games. The only person who doesn't win is the guy that dies before it finally comes out to market.
God. Yeah, I mean, there's certainly the complaint there for if you're really hyped for it by a certain time and it doesn't make the time when you were expecting it. But
Right?
you
Uh,
know,
and
and
when it
and
comes
and
out
I
compared
and
to
I
other
think
titles.
and I think used to the big thing was the publishing companies were the ones that really pushed the release dates on this stuff. They didn't understand how complex this stuff could be and how bad it would be if they didn't make sure they were fully ready to go. But I think much as people rip on Cyberpunk, I think it actually did the industry a favor by helping these publishing teams recognize it's better to delay than to release it when it's not ready. Because Cyberpunk
Yeah.
wasn't ready, and they were being pushed to get it out the door.
Mhm. Absolutely. Yeah. And it's becoming a gaming wonderland. And like I said, the other main thing is you don't always want your stuff to come out competing with too many other titles in the same kind of bent.
Yeah.
You want to directly compete a little bit, but you don't want to be like, for
Ooh.
instance, it's like you don't want all the Harry Potter type movies to all come out in the same month, because if they're
Yeah.
all the same kind of movie coming out the same month, then they're splitting the box office too much. So you want to stagger it a little bit.
Yeah.
But you want a little bit
You
of
don't want.
competition. You want to be able to say we outsold them, but you don't want to necessarily say, okay, we outsold these other 50 titles, but nobody made any decent sales at all because it was split among all of us.
Yeah.
You don't want to oversaturate the market with the same old, same old.
Yeah.
Uh, you want to vary it and you want to split it up around the year. And there's certain times of the year that you just don't release stuff. It's just known fact that it's a release dead zone, um, which is like, for instance, right after Christmas up until like January, mid February. You don't do a lot of releases then. Why? Because people just spent all their money at Christmas time and they're waiting to get their money for tax returns.
Yeah.
so, so you don't do a lot of releasing then because there's not a lot of spare capital to spend.
And what
Uh,
does release in that window is very strategically decided for
yes.
one reason or another as something that would do well in that window. Like, I can't think of anything top of my head right now that fits that, but I remember it
Well,
happening a few times where in the last couple of years we've had a handful of games that came out like in that window of time where you would normally be a void, but it was just the right game at the right time.
or it's things that you're okay with a slow build up instead of a gangbuster build up. If you're
Yeah,
willing to
that
take a
too.
little time to build up, you're not looking to just flood the market right off the bat. Maybe you've only got a limited quantity to start out with, and you're gonna release it as you get more product to sell. That's when you do it in that window because you don't have the big impetus to sell it as fast as you can lay your hands on money. In
Yeah.
fact, you kind of want to slow down a little bit so that you don't empty out your warehouses too much. You want to keep your supply ahead of your demand to the point where you're constantly able to sell, because you don't want to be in that part where you're sold out and you're losing sales simply because there's no product to sell to them. And you don't want to be in that part where you've got warehouses and warehouses stacked full of stuff and nothing's selling. You got to get in that happy medium where you're not paying a whole lot of storage space,
Yeah.
but you're keeping just ahead of the market. And those are the ones that release during those slower times because they're
Yeah.
okay with that slower buildup of sales.
Yeah.
They didn't put all of their money in a quick return. They knew that they were going to have a slower return. Okay, off to the next
This
thing.
this cat here is napping just outside of my reach here. Oh
Mine's
yeah, what's your
outside.
next subject, Duck?
Next subject is okay. This is just a real quick heads up. I've got a couple of things that we're going to be doing here before we usually go into the full media. I'm not getting any spoilers because I'm not even up to date on this yet. But with a lot of these CW shows ending and or on hiatus this week, in fact, there is no new CW verse show going on this week. No Legends, no Superman and Lois, no Flash, no Batwoman, no Supergirl, none of them.
Nope.
Black Lightning ended. Flash has ended for the season. It's that way. But one of the ones they started this week as a filler because of all these endings is the new season of the new Roswell, New Mexico. Now, I was a huge fan of the original Roswell, New Mexico, but I never really watched much of this new one. So I'm binge watching the old seasons right now. So I'm not giving any spoilers. This is why this is in our more media spoiler area of the show. But if you want to give a look at a slightly different take on that Roswell storyline, check out the new show. Now, it's based on a series of books called Roswell High. And it was about three aliens who grew up in Roswell, New Mexico, not knowing their full origin. They know they're alien. Each one's got different powers, and they're just trying to live their normal life in the small town of Roswell, New Mexico. Of course, happens to be the town where closest to Area 51, where the big UFO crash happened in 1947. So the town is a notorious tourist trap for every UFO aficionado in the world. If you've even have the tiniest inkling that you might have been abducted by an alien and had your brain wiped, you want to make a pilgrimage to Roswell, New Mexico. And so the diner is called the Crash Down, and they wear little alien antenna ears over their little waitress headgear, and there's a Roswell alien museum exhibit in town, and everything is about aliens and stuff. And most of the townies think that the aliens are myths, but of course these three know well it's true because they are aliens, even if they don't know their origin. And this is just a new take on it. It's slightly different, even though it's based on the Roswell High books. The first series was more accurate to the books because the kids were in high school. In this new series, they've bumped it up to the kids are adults now. It's not a continuation though; it's a restart, so reboot. But now the kids are adults. Like Sam Evans, the main male alien character, is now a sheriff deputy. Which is funny because one of their main nemeses in the older series and in the books is Sheriff Valenti. Um, and in the new series, the main sheriff is the wife of the ex-Sheriff Valenti. So it's still a Sheriff Valenti that's in charge of the police department, but it's now a female sheriff. Then Michael uh, is the other male alien. In the first series, was played by James Franco. Most of us know who James Franco is, and he was the rebel without a clue kind of thing. Lived from foster home and foster home till he gets emancipated and kind of moves out on his own. Worries more about his part-time jobs just to get by than school. Was never really exceptional in school in the first place. In this one, they changed the character around a little bit. Like it's in the first one, Max, the leader of the aliens, was also the smartest of the aliens. He was the science partner. He was the one you wanted on your science team when you were doing a science project. He loved science and exploring.
Oh yeah.
Where this one wants to be a writer, and he's currently a sheriff. But in the new one, Michael is still kind of the outcast. Was foster home to foster home, but he's the genius of the group, and he's also bisexual. So that throws another thing. It both throws more inclusiveness into the show with the LGBTQ community by showing that you can have other sexuality than just straight heterosexuality. And
Yeah.
they also don't try to throw too much of a focus on it, which is great. It's there, but they make some big deals about individual people prejudiced against it. But these are usually villains in the first place who we're already supposed to hate. So anybody that's not considered a villain has no problem with homosexuality anyway. But like Alex, who was one of the humans that learned their secret in the first series, in the second series, he's a military brat and he ends up going and serving in the military and actually loses a leg and gets a Purple Heart and stuff. But he is gay. He's not bi. He's really gay, and he's into Michael. And his dad is Joe Military, in charge of the alien investigation task force called Project Shepherd. And he sees his son's homosexuality as a weakness. But he's already supposed to be a villain. So you're supposed to not like him. So it's not like they're saying, as a commentary on the world, that homosexuality is bad. They're saying that, evil people going to be evil no matter what. And so they bring that kind of inclusiveness in. And in this one, the female alien is actually married in the beginning, when she was just the prom queen type, most popular girl in school person. And she was played by Kathleen Heigl in the original series. And she's the tall Amazonian blonde type. It's very statuesque blonde. Stereotype kind of character. Very much worried about her image and organizing the prom committee, or in the new show, organizing the reunion for the class and things. And then of course they've got the main female lead that's not an alien, which is Liz Orteca, whose father is an illegal alien who owns the local cafe, the crash down with the alien themes. And she is left to become a scientist because in the first version of the show, her and Max were lab partners and they were both the scientific people. And Max always had this ginormous crush on Liz. Well, in the second iteration of the show, Max still had a ginormous crush on Liz, but Liz left to become a scientist and also travel some of the world. And then she comes back. Ostensibly, it's partly for the reunion, I guess. But in her Max kind of hook up, and the beginning of both series starts with Liz getting shot in a drive-by, and Max using his alien powers to heal her and covering it up. And so she doesn't realize that she was healed by Max, but she now has a spectral handprint where the bullet went in, and Max had spilled ketchup over and said, "Oh no, you you were missed. Don't worry about it. But then the spectral handprint shows up. I'm not going to go into a whole lot of details. I just wanted to set the groundwork. Uh, but it's definitely in the nerdosphere because it's aliens. We love aliens. We love supernatural powers, alien abilities. And it's a nice teen angsty kind of show to boot. So it's our kind of thing. It's a alien version of Supernatural or Sanctuary or one of those kind of shows. Actually,
Do you remember?
it's
Do you,
go ahead.
I was gonna say, do you remember the episode of Supernatural where they thought that um, Dean was abducted by aliens?
I vaguely recall that. Now I did miss some Supernatural episodes, but I vaguely recall that one.
So Sam didn't have a soul at this time because he got revived. He got like pulled out of
Yeah,
hell, but didn't have his soul, and
yeah,
so he was in this kind of really nonchalant attitude at the time, right? And they're investigating, people going missing, and they get there, and in the place where the people are going missing, there's a bunch of alien enthusiasts that all think that they've all been abducted by aliens, and they're all sharing stories, or that loved ones have been abducted by aliens. And then Sam shows up, and he's talking really chill about his brother who got abducted because the girl's like asking him, was like, did you lose someone to an abduction? He's like, yeah, my brother. My brother, he's like, they abducted my brother. Oh, did this happen when you were a kid? It looks like you've gotten past it. Oh, that happened this morning. uh,
but yeah,
but what happened? It wasn't aliens. It was like Irish fairies or something.
right. It was part of the Twelfth of Danan. Yeah. Um, and then, but I was about to say this is also kind of similar to a alien version of True Blood. True Blood deals with vampires and werewolves and angsty. Well, they're a little bit above teenagers, but not by much.
Yeah.
Uh, this deals
Dramatic
with
20-year-olds.
dramatic 20-year-olds. Well, the second series is more along lines of True Blood because it's dramatic 20-year-olds again.
Mm.
And they're in Roswell, New Mexico, which is of course the epicenter for all the alien conspiracy theories. And so it's a nice show to pick up when we don't have a new CW DC show to watch. So I'm going to catch up with the rest of it, and it'll help be a filler when we go through hiatuses. And that's what I was mainly going to touch on for this one, and then we'll jump into your next subject, which Suicide Squad.
The Suicide Squad. Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
the
Okay.
Suicide.
So this isn't this one isn't out yet, but
It's coming
it
out soon,
is.
though. Oh, it's
Yes,
just
it's
around the
coming.
corner.
Yeah, it is just around the corner, and all the reviews, like the reviews I've been seeing, are giving it a lot of praise. I've seen a lot of 9 out of 10s from various review places. I pulled up Rotten Tomatoes just because it's like a popular one, and it's getting a 98% on the tomato meter with 61 reviews from critics.
Of course, no audience score yet because it hasn't come out yet. But
Yes.
from those that have seen early releases of it, I've heard phenomenal good things about it.
Yeah.
From some of the actors and stuff that were in it when they first got a chance to see themselves playing their roles in near finished cuts. It's amazing. It's one of James Gunn's masterworks. For those who don't know about the background about this, right after Guardians of the Galaxy 2, Marvel made the huge mistake of letting James Gunn go. And
Yeah.
so James Gunn went
They
over to Warner Brothers and did Suicide Squad, while his cast members from Guardians of the Galaxy, among others, all but pretty much lobbied to say, "Look, man, you got to bring James Gunn back. We can't do And in fact, some of them said we won't do Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 without him.
Yeah.
And so
So
he
it was
took.
so stupid on Marvel's part the way they let him go. I mean, in the end, it's probably beneficial for us and for the Suicide Squad movie because I don't know if I can imagine anyone making a better Suicide Squad movie than him. This guy made the Guardians of the Galaxy a household name.
Well,
Uh,
you know
give
who
him
it helped the most?
what's
James
that?
Gunn. Because he
Yeah,
showed that he had the power to say, hey, yeah, you big mouse think you can let me go?
yeah, and
I think the audience is on my side.
yeah. And it was so, oh my god, like, so if I'm a little rusty on it now, but if I remember correctly, they fired him over like some jokes he made on Twitter like 12 years prior. And and it wasn't like it was just uncovered by somebody. He had already years ago brought up these posts and like on his own accord apologized about these jokes because he was a young comedian trying to,
Just starting out.
make it with this. Yeah, and he thought he was being cool with these edgy jokes, and he's matured and realizes how dumb he was when he was in his youth. And it wasn't like he just got like called out by someone. Like it was something he brought himself somewhere. And but
Disney wanted to disassociate themselves from it, and
yeah,
they picked the wrong battle to fight there.
yeah,
Especially since like Batista basically flat out said he would, contract or no contract, he would not do Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 without them bringing James Gunn back.
yeah.
So
It was
it
I
was
don't
something.
know.
It was
I don't know
something.
what they were thinking. Yeah, it was a terrible decision. Didn't make any sense.
Yeah, especially since
Um,
nobody breaks a contract with Disney. And Batista said, "Hey, I don't care."
yeah, and it just seems so messed up for, especially for people that work in entertainment specifically, especially like comic people, to lose a current job over a job that they did over a decade ago. You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
and especially since the standards a decade ago were different. I mean, I'm not
Yeah,
saying they were right or wrong, but the standards for things like, especially what is considered acceptable comedy,
yeah,
changes from generation to generation and decade to decade, and you you also have to take into account it's not like I said, not right or wrong, but how a person was raised does affect what they see
yeah.
or overlook
Yeah.
as
Now,
acceptable.
if he was still if he was still making those same kind of jokes while, within the year of working for Disney or was still making those jokes
Then he
after
would be
working
in
with them,
breach of contract. Yeah.
then yeah, I would get it. But for something he did so many years before, it just doesn't make any sense.
It's like when
It,
they
it
crucified Paula Dean for something she did like
yeah,
years and years ago. It was years
yeah,
and years ago, and it was more accepted back then. Did it? Like I said, and no way are we making a judgment call that it was right. We're just saying that for the time period, it was more accepted, whether it should have been or not. But
yeah.
the fact
Though
is, you judge people not only on their actions, but on how their actions mature as they
yeah.
grow. So if they get
Uh
better, you don't necessarily blame them for past
yeah.
indiscretions.
And like even with Paula Dean, because Paula Dean, I remember Paula Dean's story from years back, and her story wasn't as clean, I guess, as James Gunn. Because
Right.
like James Gunn was getting in trouble. He got fired over jokes he made as a young comedian, right?
Right.
Distasteful jokes, right? When he was early in his career and he was young. Paula Dean got fired for not making jokes, just for being racist when she was younger.
But
Uh,
the racist slurs that she did, in a lot of ways were not seen
They
as, well, they were
they
racist,
weren't
but
they weren't they weren't they
recognized
weren't
as,
acceptable at that time. At that time that she said it, they were very much recognized as not okay things to say. But still, she had a lot of years, to have matured, and
yeah,
I have no idea if she was still racist today or not. I don't know.
she's changed her thing because she's even accepted back in polite society, and Food
Yeah.
Network isn't totally disavowing her anymore.
So I don't know her
So
story,
yeah,
and it's just the kind of same thing I saw. It's like these stories you see from time to time about like a teacher who like was featured in a porn once when they were in their late
18
teens,
years
early
old, or
20s,
yeah.
and now they're like 45, and the principal stumbled across the porn and recognized her and fires her for it. It's like, come on.
Yeah, there's a statute of limitation on this. Come on.
Yeah.
Hey, uh, plus, what was I going to say? Um, Comedy is so fluid anyway. I mean, like,
Yeah.
I just watched a review the other day from and then this is from a man of color as the reviewer, but he had just seen Blazing Saddles for the first time.
Yeah.
And all of us will admit they couldn't even make Blazing Saddles today. 15 minutes into the show, there'd be a huge outcry and boycotts of the theater and stuff because of the amount of racy humor. But this reviewer of color, although he recognized and mentioned this fact, also said, and I quote, "It is probably one of the top 2 comedy movies ever made, and it's not number 2." This is an exact quote
It's
of this guy, and this is a man of color who normally
yeah.
would not accept this at all. They're the main people that would the demographic that
Yeah.
would be up in arms about this and stuff. But comedy does have a life cycle. It changes and evolves throughout the years, and what's acceptable in one year is just a year later might not be acceptable at all. And
Yeah.
like Mel
And then
Brooks was a genius, but Mel
also
Brooks,
besides that, not every joke has to be for everybody.
right?
You know what I mean?
Like, back in the day, you could make off-color jokes, and you didn't have to necessarily follow the caveat of being of that subculture in order to do it.
Yeah.
Nowadays, even if you're of that subculture, you're starting to be ostracized a little bit, and your routines are called Uncle Tom routines
Yeah.
because of the fact
I
that
just
if you're a black comedian only ever doing black jokes, it
yeah.
starts to look like you're a little bit cliche and pat, and it's not appropriate.
Yeah. I was just here's something that's interesting, and that's what makes the entertainment industry kind of an anomaly in the workforce, right?
Mhm.
Um I was doing one of these. I was doing an Aaron Sorkin screenwriting class online, and he's talked about a little bit about how whenever you write, you can't you can't spend your whole time trying to write a product that won't offend anybody or that'll offend the least number of people. You got to write your art, right? And he's like, if you were to survey everybody in America or even maybe internationally, if you were to survey everyone to try to find the one hamburger that the most number of people will find inoffensive that they're willing to eat, it'll probably be a McDonald's hamburger. But you don't want to make a McDonald's hamburger. You want to make a gourmet fantastic burger that okay, maybe
I won't.
this won't be
I won't eat
popular
a
with
McDonald's hamburger. Yeah.
yeah. He's like, maybe most people won't like this cut of beef or these particular toppings or this way of producing it. But if you make a really quality burger that you are really proud of, uh,
Well,
it'll get its audience. You'll have your,
there will be people who
you
will
can,
appreciate it.
there, yeah,
There,
that's it.
there, there
There
will
will be
be.
people that'll appreciate that.
Everything has its audience.
And so don't make your thing the least common denominator just so it fits in with everybody. And so
don't try to be the Big Mac of comedy.
yes, don't try to be the Big Mac of comedy. Don't try to appeal to everybody.
No, you want to be the Gordon Ramsay burger of comedy.
Yes.
Yes, that's right. But yeah, that's the thing. And the Suicide Squad, and the original Suicide Squad are also good examples of that because they take these characters that are traditionally villains, bring them together, and they have some idiosyncrasies that aren't going to appeal to everybody.
Yeah.
They're foul mouthed. They're okay with killing. They're
Here's some fun tidbits I learned from a interview with Margot Robbie, the actress who plays Harley Quinn,
yeah.
John Cena, who plays was he the Patriot or whatever?
Peacekeeper.
Huh?
Peacekeeper.
That's right. And James Gunn himself. The three of them were in an interview recently. With who was that? Doesn't matter. Anyway, they were doing an interview recently, and they talked about how there's a scene in the movie where like Margot Robbie has to like use her foot, and like she actually used her actual foot and was able to like grab something and then flip upside down and use that to like work on releasing her hands or whatever while she was tied up. And so she was like really flexible and dexterous and able to use her toes almost like fingers.
Very Cirque du Soleil, yeah.
Yeah, and like James Gunn was not planning on her being able to do any of that. He was expecting to have to, CG in or special effects that in, but she was able to actually do all that. But then, as she does it, when when they went back to look at the post production, he did not get multiple extra takes, and in the shot, like the shoulder pad thing or something on her shoulder blocked her face. He's like, if I had caught that, I'd have that cut out. But I was so impressed by what she was pulling off that I didn't notice her face was getting blocked by her own costume. And another thing that was funny was that there was a shot that they took that had like someone else's foot in it that was supposed to be Harley's foot, and like the special effects or the editor was like, "Hey, what are you doing here, James? These aren't Margot Robbie's feet. I know what her feet look like." This is someone else's feet.
Somebody's got to.
And James was a little bit disturbed that the editor knew what her feet looked like well enough that he could tell that these weren't actually Margot Robbie's feet.
Yeah, somebody's got.
And Margot Robbie's like, I take that as a compliment.
Right.
And then also Margot, years ago when she was in college or something, Margot had a boyfriend, and the boyfriend was a huge fan of John Cena and had a cardboard cutout of John Cena in his bedroom. And so she's like, for 2 years, I slept with a cardboard cutout of you in the bedroom. Which I've since seen that coming around, because it's been kind of shared, like, for 2 years, Margot Robbie had a cardboard cutout of John Cena in her bedroom. More accurately, it was in her boyfriend's bedroom or whatever, but she was staying with the boyfriend because the boyfriend was such a huge fan. And so it was a shirtless John Cena wearing like denim shorts, from his WWE days.
Right. Nice.
I also liked an interview where the interviewer was like, "So, what's the difference between WWF and WWE? Like, do you guys get along or hate each other?" He's like, "We're the same company. We just got the F out."
All right. Well,
yeah. We add a little extra line to our letter, to our abbreviation.
But yeah, Suicide Squad comes out here, in like 2 weeks? Something like that. Around the 11th or so of August. I want to say.
August 6th. August 6th.
Oh, is it the 6th? Oh.
Yeah.
So just about a week. The week.
So, yeah.
Next Friday. That's next Friday.
Yeah, Friday of next week. So,
wow.
I will be watching it over the weekend on HBO Max.
As will
With
I.
a
I'll watch
a
it
girlfriend
Friday
that has
morning.
immunocompromise, we aren't going out to theaters yet.
I'm going to be watching it probably just after 2 a.m. Uh,
Oh yeah,
Friday
I
morning.
wish I could, but my work schedule is not going to let that happen.
Well, I have to be up to go to dialysis at 4 a.m. anyway, so
Oh
I'll watch that at 2 a.m. It'll be over right around 4 a.m. and then my ride will be around shortly after that. So a lot of
yeah,
times on dialysis nights, I'm up anywhere from 11 o'clock to like 2 o'clock at night,
yeah.
and then just stay up.
It's
So
2 hours and 12 minutes. So yeah, yeah.
yeah,
She
and
started at 2.
yeah, so I'll watch it at 2 o'clock, and my alarm to get up goes off at 4:20. So so it'll be just about enough time to watch it, and then it'll be that. So, but we do have the Suicide Squad coming out. I'm really excited to see it. There's a lot of very interesting. I don't even know if you'd call these C-list characters. These are more like
Yeah.
X-list characters.
Something I was reading something somewhere that referred to them as F list characters.
Yeah, there's somewhere around Z2 characters. They're not just
Yeah,
Z1,
because
Z2. Because
even
I mean, they got
even my
Polka Dot
e-
Man,
even myself have trouble identifying who these characters are. Some of them,
Arms
like I
Off
know.
guy. I mean, come on. The Weasel, Arms Off guy. Who remembers those characters? And I read a lot of comic books.
Yeah, they dig deep for some of these.
Yeah, and then they're digging deep, and I'm not saying what they're digging in either.
Mhm.
But one of the things that I'm excited to see, though, is Kaiju Starro.
Yeah,
Kaiju Starro is going to get me excited. I want to see that because this will be the first time that they really went up against a Kaiju level kind of threat, and they happen to make it the classic villain Starro, which was in a couple of runs of DC Comics that people may not remember. But Starro was a pretty interesting little space age nuisance, and
yeah.
so
So I don't know how he's going to be in this movie, but I know in the comics he traditionally, um, attaches to people's, attaches to their
their
face and then takes
faces.
over their mind and controls them.
Yeah, he was a mind control alien. Where in this they call it Project Starro, which means he might be a science experiment, or it might be a combination. It might be an alien that crashed Earth that they did experiments on, and that's why we suddenly have a kaiju level Starro. Who knows?
Yeah.
We will find out in about a week.
Did you know in the
Uh,
comics Batman has a tiny star or a Starro that he keeps as like a pet
yeah,
that
it's one
dresses
of
up
his.
in like a tiny Robin costume?
Yeah, it's one of his things. Batman has collected so many souvenirs throughout the years.
It
he
it
was one of
refers
the.
it calls Batman dad. So like when he's in trouble, it'll like try to jump in to help. He's like, "I'll save you, Dad."
Yeah, that's completely different from the Starros normally. Well, and
Yeah, it's a
speaking
very different one.
before we move on from this, speaking of upcoming movies, they did just recently drop a new trailer for Ghostbuster Afterlife. So while you're looking at the new trailers for everything else, check out the new trailer for Ghostbusters Afterlife. I think there's a new trailer for Legend of the Ten Rings, and there's this newest trailer that came out. This is a week away. Legend of the Ten Rings is a little bit further away than that. Ghostbusters is not till November, but I'm getting really excited about uh, the Claim It because movies are going to start coming out a lot more frequently than they were in the last couple of months. So we're going to have more and more, especially HBO Max releases, because that way we can, if you have HBO Max, you don't have to pay any extra and you can just watch it right away.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm looking forward to that. And otherwise, we'll move on from this topic.
All right.
And After this topic, coincidentally, it's my flashback movie recommendation for the week. And this one I could not find free streaming anywhere, but it's one of Matthew Broderick's original movies, Lady Hawk. Rutger Hauer, Michelle Pfeiffer, Matthew Broderick. It happens in like 12th century Italy, so kind of near the Middle Ages, but not exactly. But it's kind of portrayed as more of that high fantasy Middle Age era, where Matthew Broderick is a thief and pickpocket who basically gets out of jail and joins up with Rutger Hauer's character, who has this hawk that he keeps with him, and he's going to go fight his nemesis, because you find out that his nemesis had put a curse on him and the hawk. And during the daytime, his love, the love of his life, Michelle Pfeiffer's character, is a hawk. And then at night, she becomes human, but he becomes, I believe it's a wolf. I wasn't able to watch it, like I said, because it was not free to stream, so I haven't had actually a chance to rewatch it yet. But it's a great movie to go back to as a flashback to old fantasy. Plus, of course, getting to see Matthew Broderick cut his teeth on a movie is always good. It's one of the movies that Rutger Hauer did. He had a mixed career. Rutger Hauer had some great movies, and then he had some major bombs. But this is one of his great movies. In fact, for my money, this is probably his best movie. And this is Michelle Pfeiffer before she was like a household name. It had pretty decent special effects for its era. Came out in 1985. As I like to do every show, I try to give you guys a flashback movie to check out especially from the 80s and 90s. If nothing else, to compare them to some of the new movies coming out today, to see how the movie industry has changed, and see how much it stays the same too. This is definitely a movie that you want to give a shot at. It is considered a classic in the fantasy genre, where back in the earlier days there were a lot fewer truly fantasy genre movies out. We're in a more of a renaissance of fantasy movies, especially with Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings coming out nowadays. But this is a contemporary movie of things like Willow and Labyrinth, were other movies that fit that early old world fantasy genre, and were really, really good. So
Did you
definitely,
know?
yeah,
Did you know a second Labyrinth movie is in the works?
I heard about that.
Yeah,
I had
it
heard
won't.
about that.
I don't know much about it, other than they don't intend on having the Goblin King in this movie. But it'll be supposed to be a sequel to the old movie, but not about the Goblin King. About other characters of that world or something. I don't know.
Yeah, and then that's too bad, because I don't know if a lot of people didn't necessarily see that, but Netflix has a short run series on it called Historical Roasts, where they have a bunch of actors and comedians dress up as historical characters, and they roast one specific historical character like a celebrity roast. And one of the episodes was the historical roast of Freddie Mercury from Queen. And during that roast, one of my favorite actors, I think bar none, and we talked about him last week, Seth Green, played David Bowie. And he did by far the best David Bowie impression I have ever seen. And he would be perfect to reprise the role as the Goblin King. In fact, I was hoping that I could get a question in about that at the question and answer last weekend with Seth Green, but none of my questions got chosen to be answered. but that was one of my
Yeah.
big ones. I wanted to see if he ever wanted to try to play uh, the Goblin King because he did such a good job as David Bowie. But it's still worthwhile to go looking at movies like Labyrinth and the New Age sequels. A lot of them are getting New Age sequels, like The Dark Crystal was followed up by the TV series, The Dark Crystal, that's currently out. A lot of them are
It's on
getting.
Netflix, I think, right? That
I
show.
think Dark Crystal is, I think, a Netflix show. Yes, I know it's on one of the streaming services, but I think it's Netflix. Um, but there's a lot of shows that are getting old and new. I mean, uh, Westworld has a TV series follow up. Um, Watchmen has a TV series follow up. You know,
Yeah, I watched
so
that one. I
yeah,
liked it.
yeah, it was really good. So
It
and we're getting more and more, like, for instance, the Golden Compass, the movie, was a flop in theaters, partly because of a major controversy with the anti-religious elements of the books that were actually mostly left out of the movie, but because they were in the books, there was still a heavy outcry against them. But now they've got the HBO uh, His Dark Materials, which is the Golden Compass series on HBO. They're coming out with a new Divergent series. They're talking about doing
Beast.
A Percy Jackson series.
Percy
Um,
Jackson, eh?
yeah, because the movies were flops.
Oh
Uh,
God, the movies were
were
terrible.
they were horrible, especially if you like the books,
Just
and I love the books. And
mm-hmm.
the first one was barely
Yeah.
tolerable. The second one should burn in the fires of the lowest hell. Uh,
Ugh.
the second one was as bad.
Ugh.
It was as bad, if not worse, than Highlander 2. That
Okay,
which
so
does not
here's
exist.
how here's something how I describe about how badly they screwed up Percy Jackson just from the first movie, right? Imagine I tell people imagine Harry Potter 1 doesn't without even where the movie doesn't even mention Voldemort. That's how much they screwed up Percy
No, no,
Jackson.
no. It's like, imagine Harry Potter, where the screenwriter never read the books.
Yeah. Screenwriter never read the books and does not even mention the main villain of the fucking books.
No, he just has a few character
Kronos.
names.
The Kronos is never mentioned in the movie.
Not in the first one. Nope.
And okay,
He's
so
barely
Kronos is
mentioned
never
in the
mentioned in
second
the
one.
first movie. Yeah, and Ares isn't in the first movie either. Like the end of the first book ends with the climatic big fight scene is Percy against Ares, the god of war, and they're near a river, and Ares is trying to keep him from touching the water because he's the son of Neptune and has strengthened by the water.
Son of
But he
Poseidon.
manages to outsmart Ares and gets touched to the water and blah blah blah. In the movie, that does not happen at all.
Actually,
Instead,
he's the son of Poseidon.
Poseidon, same, yeah,
Well, because remember, they're very specific in that with
yeah,
Reardon because they have both sides of everything.
yeah. You're right. You're right.
But
You're right. I used
that one. You got to be specific, but yeah.
Yeah.
Normally, you'd be right because one's just the other name for
Yeah.
the god.
It just kind of slipped that way. But you get what my point is. They completely cut all that out, and instead had this like lame ass fight where he fights like the teenage son of. Does he fight the teenage son of Ares and over a skyscraper while wearing like floating boots, and he hits him with a wave up there or something?
Something. I think it's actually the son of Hades.
Yeah, someone's son, like a teenage kid. I was like,
It's been a while.
Yeah.
Wait, no.
It's been a while. It's been a while, and was so horribly done that it's just like, most of that movie is just like washed out of. Most of those movies kind of got washed out of my head. They were so bad, and I was so excited for them.
Oh no, it was the son of Hermes.
son of Hermes. You know
Yeah.
what? That makes sense. That does seem familiar. I'm pretty sure you're right. Yeah,
Yeah.
because he had the floating, he had the flying little boots. So yeah,
Yeah.
he had to fight the son of Hermes on a rooftop as the big climax,
Who had pretended to
and
be
you
his
know the
friend in the
teenage
beginning
son
of
of
the
Hermes.
movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which was from
Oh
the books, but that was not the climactic final battle in the books.
no, no,
Um,
not even.
so they are doing a lot of stuff with those. A lot of things are going from movie to serialized TV show. In fact, a lot of my writing groups have been asking the question lately in different ones of my fiction groups if you'd rather have your book written into as a movie or as a TV series nowadays. And my
Yeah,
answer would be mostly a TV series because it gives you more time to explore the inner workings of the book because 2 hours is not a lot of time to fit a lot of the nuance that you put into a book
hmm,
into a story. And
yeah.
so I like the TV show thing a little bit better. Uh, they may not get the bit as big a FX budget, but they're starting to.
Yeah.
But the
God,
fact of the
like it
matter is,
just
they have more build up.
there's I don't think there's a single other movie out there based on a book that riles me up as Percy Jackson. Like, usually, most of the time, I'm pretty forgiving about adjustments being made in a movie from a book. But you don't get rid of your main conflicts.
Well, my only exception, the except that I hate probably worse than the Percy Jacksons, is Needful Things, just because it's my favorite Stephen King novel, and they butchered it, and even Christopher Lee couldn't save it. But that's neither here nor there because
Yeah,
Stephen King redeemed himself because he's once he took over executively producing most of his movies, they got a lot better.
that's good.
He used to not do all the producing himself. He used
Yeah,
to turn him over to a screenwriter and a producer, and he was more of a technical advisor. But when he started seeing some of his movies like coming out like Needful Things, he's like, oh no, and then he stepped in and started doing his own. And ever since then, his movies have been much more accurate to his books,
that's good.
in the most part. But anyway, so Lady Hawk is definitely a movie that you will want to put in your library of books that you've at least watched, even if you don't want to own it necessarily. And you can get it for two
Movies.
ninety nine. For $2.99 on Amazon, you can rent it at least to watch.
There you go.
And you can keep an eye out to see when it comes up for free on one of the streaming channels like Tubi or Pluto or something. It's just
And
not currently out on any of them.
and don't forget to consider your local libraries.
That's true because some of your libraries do have rentable basically for free on your library card. So check outable movies. And I've
Yep.
picked up some great gems when I used to go to the physical library. And it's worth it to give a chance. I know one year I got the Rankin and Bass The Hobbit animated movie from the
Oh yeah.
library. Great animated movie. It's one of the best portrayals of the songs from the book, and Rankin and Bass did it justice. And I got that from the library just to show you something you can get from the library. So yeah, check your local libraries too. Okay, but we'll be done with that. I think
Mm.
yeah, you didn't have anything else on the regular docket.
No, no, that was my docket. That
I
was
was going
last
to
on my docket.
mention one more thing before we got into our regular stuff. Last Friday, Masters of the Universe Revelations dropped the first 5 episodes. For those of us that are in my age category, we grew up with He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, considered one of the most iconic toy-selling cartoons ever to be made. One of the worst movie adaptations also ever to be made. Now, there's an example of a person who made the movie who never watched the TV show because that movie sucked. But Revelations is great. The first 5 episodes are out. Now, the key here you got to remember is it is not a He-Man TV show. They are making a He-Man show as well. This show doesn't even have He-Man in the title. It is Masters of the Universe Revelations, not He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. So don't be disappointed if a lot of the show handles the other heroes, not just He-Man. He-Man is in it, but he is not the be-all, end-all focal point of this show, and he's not meant to be. Same thing with Skeletor. He's in it, but he's not the be-all, end-all focal villain of the show. Because there are more Masters of the Universe than He-Man and Skeletor. You know, there's the good guys and the bad guys, and both sides have a whole cast of characters. But this five episode start of the season is a great example. Of course, Kevin Smith is producing it, and he's Kevin Smith. What else need I say?
Yeah.
It's got a
Did he write and direct, or did he just produce? Like, what was his?
Write, direct, and produce. He worked on all parts of it.
That is the single most convincing statement made to me to convince me to watch this. Is that Kevin Smith made it?
And he's an uber nerd. I mean, and he's
I
going to
love his work.
He's going to stay true to the spirit of the old show, and he really does. While updating it, and it gets a little bit more refined artwork, storytelling. It's not quite as formulaic. It's not quite as almost stop motion cartooning. It's more fluid. There's more depth to the story, and they're supposed to be dropping. They have not announced yet when the rest of the first season is dropping, but those first 5 episodes are available on Netflix to watch, and they do at least tell one complete tale. So from start to end, there's a complete tale told in those 5 episodes. So you're not missing something if all you watch is those 5 episodes.
How long is each episode?
About 25 minutes.
Okay. So it'd take me about 2.5 hours to get caught up on that. That's not bad.
Yeah, 2.5, 3 hours, and you're done.
I can probably... I'm trying to think. I could probably get that watched by Sunday, by the end of Sunday.
Yeah, it's worth it, and I definitely recommend it.
I'm having to think about what I'm having to think about what else I have to do this week. I have, a lot of stuff I'm trying to keep up on.
But it's worth touching on to. I liked it. That's I think a big important part for me is I liked it, and that's how I judge a lot of things.
Yeah.
But now we're going to.
I'd say this artwork looks pretty cool for the people who I don't think we mentioned this before. I'm not a fan of He-Man. I didn't grow up watching it. The show was off the air a few years before I was born. And so I did not grow up with He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. I don't think I even had the opportunity to try to watch it until I was already like late in my teens and didn't care at that point. I think I got a DVD at some point. I got my hands on DVD. Like someone gifted me a DVD, I think, and I didn't watch it.
Like I said, me and my pet dinosaur sat on the couch and watched it. So
And so, whenever Doc was bringing it up a little earlier to me before we started streaming, he was talking about it and Transformers. It's like my Transformers was Beast Wars. Like the old cars turning into robots wasn't what I watched growing up. I watched the dinosaurs and the cheetahs and the giant rat turn into robots.
Yeah.
So
my start was Robots in Disguise, the first one.
Yeah, so I'm just a little bit too young to get nostalgic or excited for anything He-Man related. However, with the exception of this one being made by Kevin Smith, who is a filmmaker that I love his work, I don't think I've seen anything he made that I didn't really enjoy.
And he's the original Silent Bob, people. I mean, come on.
Yes.
He's Silent Bob.
Yeah.
that should be
Yeah.
enough of a selling point for you.
I mean, he wrote and directed the Clerks movies, Mallrats, which Mallrats is getting a sequel.
Yes, I
Um,
know. Worked on Mallrats. He worked on Dogma.
any movie with Jay and Silent Bob in it, Dogma.
Yeah.
Uh,
If Jay and Silent Bob guested on it, that meant that Kevin Smith was involved
yeah,
directly.
and then there's been a couple movies that Jay and Silent Bob didn't guest in that he made as well. Like, I don't think they were in Cop Out, which isn't his
No,
best movie, but it's
but
still still a fun comedy cop movie, buddy cop movie.
speaking of fun buddy cop movies, before we go on into our normal spoiler section, I
Well, I
did
don't think we
also
really
watch.
have a spoiler section to do we?
Well, we're going to talk about it. We don't really have any spoilers to
Okay,
reveal. We're going to
okay,
just do a real quick talk about it.
okay.
But I did watch the second episode of the Turner and Hooch TV series. It dropped first episode last week on Disney Plus, and I will say, if you watch the original Tom Hanks movie, which I also watched this week again, um, the end of the second episode definitely gives the solid implication that the main character in the series is the son of Tom Hanks's character from the original movie, because his partner in the original movie was played by the same man of color that plays Mr. Winslow on Family Matters, or played the officer of color on Die Hard, the first Die Hard movie.
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, he was the partner that Tom Hanks was training to take his place at the beginning of the movie. And then, of course, Tom Hanks decides to stay after he gets Hooch and everything. And so he never goes to the big city to become a big city cop. He stays a small city cop, even though him and his partner end up breaking up this one big crime thing by the end of the movie. And they keep talking about in the series how his dad was famous for breaking this one great big case, but then for the rest of his life, he was a small town cop and stuff. Well, at the end of the second episode, they're at the house boxing up his dad's stuff, because his dad died to start the series in the first place. Because that's how he got a Hooch, is he inherited it from his dad when his dad died. This is
Okay,
the
hang on.
second
What?
Hooch.
Okay, what is a hooch?
Okay, Turner and Hooch is a cop buddy drama where Hooch is a dog, and he's one of those
Okay.
big,
Oh my god.
jowly, drooly dogs.
I thought hooch was a person,
No,
and I was getting really lost. I was like, how did you inherit your partner? Like, I thought it was the name of his partner on the movie.
no.
Oh, that makes a lot more sense.
Hooch is a dog that he gets. Okay, just to go for a real quick synopsis of the movie, Tom Hanks is an ultimate neat freak cop, small town cop, who has everything in its place. Absolute neat freak, polishes his shoes like every day, that kind of thing. Very organized, and he's an investigator in this small town, because this small town's not big enough to have detectives, just an investigator. And he goes and he does his rounds, and he's leaving in a week to go to the big city to start a big city job. So he brings in Winslow as his, which the character's name is David, and he's training him in the job. And there's this one old guy on the pier that's always like complaining and stuff about his neighbors making too much noise, this and that. And this old guy's got this big brute of a drooly dog named Hooch, who always gets off its leash, runs up and tackles Tom Hanks. And Tom Hanks even comes ready with a muffin to try to distract the dog. Doesn't matter. Dog still knocks him down and slobbers all over him. And of course, that's really great for Tom Hanks, who's a clean freak.
Yeah.
But anyway, early in the movie,
it's sounding familiar. I think I saw this as a kid.
You might have. Early in the movie, the old guy dies, and Tom Hanks takes custody of the dog because he sees it as a witness because it saw who killed his master, and the animal control people were looking like they were going to freaking put it down as a unruly dog, and he is a pretty unruly dog, but they, I mean, shoot, they try to get it with the long extend-a-pole thingies, and it just knocks them into the water. And
not that I mean to interrupt, but it feels like there was another movie that was almost exactly like this by starring John Belushi.
Canine Cop.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, there was one
Okay.
during that time period. We had 4 or 5 different buddy cop movies that instead of having a human buddy, it was an animal or something like that. It was mainly dog. Canine Cop and Turner and Hooch were the 2 main ones.
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be one about a cat.
Well, there was one.
I think there's one about a chimp.
There was one with Chuck Norris too.
Yeah.
I can't remember the name of the one with Chuck Norris, but the one with Belushi was Canine Cop, and the one with Tom Hanks, Turner and Hooch. So anyway, he gets the dog, and he tries to leave it at the vet, but the vet doesn't let it leave it there. Makes him take it home. He lives in an apartment now. The easiest way would have been to tell his sister, who had dropped off the dog, is like, look, I'm not allowed to have dogs in my apartment. But he didn't come up with that excuse. So he's stuck with his dog wrecking his apartment every night. But the dog turns out to be a really good police dog. It won't listen to Turner at all. Hardly. Turner, it's acts like completely untrained. But like the dog trainer in the canine unit responds perfectly to it. A diplomat's child in this second episode responds perfectly to the diplomat's child. Just doesn't want to listen to Turner.
Yeah.
And so the whole series is going to be about him getting to know the dog and the dog helping him solve a case every episode. But the big point I wanted to make of this little brief mention was the fact that it does link directly to the movie, at least through implication, if nothing else.
Cool.
Anyway, by having a man of color as the partner, helping go through his dad's stuff, and it's not the same actor, but he looks enough like the actor to really be an older Dave Winslow. Anyway, we're done with that. Masters Universe and Turner and Hooch. Now, we were going to just mention on the CW, there are no new CW episodes right now. Couple things. First off, I'm going to put this link here. You'll see it in the chat. This is a list of all the CW Arrowverse in numerical order across series, contiguous. So it's not just season 6, episode 11 of The Flash, it's also the 554th contiguous episode of the Arrowverse. And I mean, it includes all the Arrowverse except Stargirl, because it's got the Freedom Fighter cartoons from the web series, and it also has Vixen, the web series, on it.
Oh, yeah. That's a pretty fun web series.
It's got Legends of Tomorrow, it's got Black Lightning, it's got Arrow, it's got Supergirl. And it starts with the first episode of Supergirl, even though Supergirl didn't start on the CW. It had moved to the CW later, because it was originally a Fox show. But it goes and puts them all up to the end of this season, which the last episode, it actually goes to the very first episode of Legends of Tomorrow in October is the last one listed, and it tells you what date that's going to premiere. So it gives you the premiere date, the episode number in the overall CW verse, and the title of the episode, and it's color coded by show. So it's a great thing to look at and I assume they're going to keep it updated as we go along. So you might want to take this one. I'm going to put it in the chat and save it and visit it when you ever want to see what's going on, especially with the recent hiatuses that came about. And that's the other thing that I wanted to point out is, let's see, add the bookmarks here. Done. Is the hiatuses that we've had in the CW. First of all, the Supergirl started our season off instead of Superman and Lois because of delays caused by the coronavirus in production of the beginning of the Superman and Lois series. And then the reason we got a hiatus right after just 5 episodes of Superman and Lois is actually because it come to find out a member of the cast had a positive COVID test. And so they couldn't work until they got out of the quarantine period of that, which delayed new episodes being finished and getting all the way through post-production so that they could be played. And now they're just, and then like I said, they had originally only contracted for 13 episodes of Superman and Lois this season, but they actually wrote in 2 more episodes before the end of the show to bring it to a 15-episode season. All the shows were in truncated seasons this year because of COVID. But they are all set to start up in October and November. And the other good news I found is it's not exactly a crossover, but when they start back up, it's kind of going to be a 5-episode like series of team-ups between the various shows as they start up. They're not exactly calling it a crossover, although there is supposed to be a couple of crossovers next season. But they are going to interlink these 5 episodes to some extent, including introducing new characters which they have not announced yet. So I'm really excited about that personally. Especially when you look at the fact that going into the next season, we only have Flash, Legends of Tomorrow, Superman and Lois, and now Stargirl. John Constantine is going to end up the character Matt Ryan that plays John Constantine in the last season will be playing a different character than John Constantine because of the John Constantine show that is going to be premiering on HBO Max soon. So they didn't want 2 versions of John Constantine out at the same time. They're okay if it's one's a movie and one's a TV series, but they don't want to have 2 TV series versions at the same time. So Matt Ryan is going to be still a member of the Legends of Tomorrow for season 7 of Legends of Tomorrow, but he will be playing a different character than John Constantine.
Yeah.
So there's a lot going on with the CW verse, and there's got to be something more coming in because
who's playing as the new Constantine then on the other show?
I don't know. I think he's a man of color though. But we've got, like I said, Legends of Tomorrow, Batwoman, Flash, Superman and Lois, and Stargirl. So there's only 5 original Arrowverse shows that are going to be going this next season, and there's supposed to be a 5-episode sort of intro crossover kind of thing this next season. So that if they put 1 per show, that's going to be a heck of a thing. Also, as another aside, before we're all done, Cress Williams, who played Black Lightning, his show is ended, but he has been approached on multiple occasions to possibly do cameos in the other shows in the upcoming seasons. And he has said that he is amenable to it. So we still may yet get to see that crossover event where they really use the Hall of Justice and everybody gets to take their seats. Because I mean, we're going to have, I mean, we've lost Oliver Queen, but his daughter has taken up the mantle of the Green Arrow, so she could sit in the Green Arrow seat. And even though Supergirl is leaving, Superman is there, so somebody can be in in the Kryptonian seat with the Superman symbol and stuff. But we can actually put together that Hall of Justice that we ended Crisis with. Eventually, we could still work towards that, so it's looking really good for that. But yeah, no Legends of Tomorrow or Superman and Lois this week or next. Then the following week, we get them. And we're getting ready to, like I say, close out those series. But then they come right back in October.
So we're getting a Peacemaker TV series on
Yeah,
HBO Max,
yeah, we're getting
starring John Cena.
Yes, we're getting Peacemaker for the first standalone based on a movie one on
And
HBO Max.
we're getting a
Green
show about the Gotham Police Department, which I thought was already the show
got
Gotham.
got
But we're
no
getting a new one.
this one's called Gotham PD.
Yeah.
Gotham PD is coming out. Of course, What If is getting ready to come out for Marvel. Green Lantern Corps is getting ready to come out, and
The Constantine show looks like it's going to be an animated series.
Yes, as is What If. The Green Lantern Corps will not be animated, and one of the main characters is going to be Guy Gardner, not Hal Jordan.
The Gardner?
Guy Gardner will be one of the main Green Lanterns, even though he was a backup Green Lantern when Hal Jordan was chosen. The only reason Hal Jordan was chosen over Guy Gardner, in fact, is because he was physically closer when the old Green Lantern died. If Guy Gardner had been closer, he would have been the main Green Lantern, and Hal Jordan would have been the emergency backup. Yeah. We still are getting hints and teases about John Diggle becoming John Stewart, another Green Lantern. And we know that some version of Green Lantern is going to be on Stargirl this coming season. So we've got a whole lot coming on. Supergirl will be back soon. It comes back on like the 23rd, I think it is. Stargirl comes back on like the 26th. So late August, we will have some more CW shows to watch. But up until then, we've got Suicide Squad coming out. We got a couple other great things coming out in August. September, we got some more great stuff coming out. So it's starting to bloom, but we don't have a whole lot for our normal media spoiler this show. So really, we've gone over anyway because we still always seem to go over.
Yeah.
Because that's just us. We added more content because we didn't have Greg and we didn't have the CW stuff to talk about, but then we just went on and on about our new content. So
yeah.
I want to thank you on behalf of myself, on Greg and Absentia, and of course my co-host Lurch here for tuning in, especially for this being our inaugural episode where we are actually primarily broadcasting on the Springfield Game Expo site as well as the Gamersoo site for Twitch. And of course, it's also hosted on Queen City Cardboard and Left Claw whenever they don't have other content going on. You will find I will export this episode to my YouTube, and we'll probably Lurch will probably do the same with it over to the YouTube for Springfield
Expo
Game
page.
Expo. So it'll
Yeah,
be
that's the
covered
plan.
on both those within the next week. I know mine. I have my own separate playlist just for game time, so you can go back and watch all the old episodes there. Just search. It's easier than putting down a tiny link because they change all the time with YouTube. Just go in and search Gamer Seuss or Springfield Game Expo
Yeah.
on
Until
YouTube.
your YouTube channel reaches a certain threshold, you can't have a custom YouTube
Permanent
link.
link. Yeah,
Kind
you
of
can't have a
annoying,
permanent
yeah.
link. Right. But like I said, just go in and search for our usernames. If you need to get a
Yeah.
hold of either one of us, we both have our Twitch channels. Mine is Gamer Seuss. Lurch's is Left Claw Studios. Greg's is Queen City Cardboard. And we're all involved with Springfield Game Expo.
I'm also on Twitter and Facebook as Lurchland.
Yeah, Twitter and Facebook.
Follow me there.
I'm Gamer Seuss, although I do not check Twitter. I'll warn you that right now. So if you Twitter me, I probably will never see it.
Mhm.
I use it for entering sweepstakes. That's about it.
I don't tweet very often, but I do get notifications on my phone for things on there.
I get notifications. I just delete them. I don't even read most of them.
Oh.
Every once in a
Tweet,
while,
tweet. Shut up, bird.
I'll see like Matt Mercer's name on something, or Satine Phoenix, and I'll actually look at it. But
Yeah.
otherwise, I don't really even look at them unless I'm waiting for a sweepstakes entry to give me a prize. So I don't use Twitter. I don't use Instagram at all. I don't even own an Instagram. I don't have a TikTok. I have a Discord channel. If you, I don't even have my bot loaded right now. But if my bot was loaded, you could hit exclamation Discord and channel if you were in the Gamer Seuss channel, and it would give you my Discord. We will have a Discord channel specifically for Springfield Game Expo. We do have a sub channel on the 417 Hub for Springfield Game. So if you go to the 417 Hub, which is the Springfield area community Discord, there is a sub channel just for game. So you can check that out as well. And we are going to start putting out a new event every week for this show to remind people to come watch us. If you know anybody who might have liked the show, send them an invite. Let them know we're here from 8 to 10. Technically, although we often run over every Wednesday Central Standard Time. It's PM, of course. And I'm Doc, and I thank you for coming.
I'm
And
Lurch. See you guys later.
have a good week. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Mm.
Let's see.
Oh, all right.